So I was calling Dougherty. It's Dougherty.
All right. All right, good morning, everyone. Before we begin this morning's town board meeting, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Elmont Memorial High School Model UN team on their victory at the 31st Model United Nations Conference at the University of Chicago on February 10th. The conference is an international competition that attracted over 2,500 students from across the globe. 8 Elmont students won first place in their committees, and 2 students won second place in their committees. These students showed firsthand that to prosper as a nation, or even as a town, it is imperative to put the needs of the people of their community first. I'm so proud of these young scholars and the way they work together to solve complex issues as they maintain peace. Please join me in congratulating the committee award winners, Naka Emily Agwali, Faith Green, Munahil Sultana, Brittany Bennett, Gloria Green, Nicole Jean-Pierre, Giovanni G, Preston Promar, and honorable mentions Janice Ernwasi and Orobo Ogobo. We also congratulate faculty advisor Ninke Gilliam and chaperone Philip Cabrera, as well as Principal Dougherty. Congratulations. Please come up. We have citations for this, your Model UN and for your students as well.
Anybody? Did we miss anybody? And Philip. Is Philip here? Yes. Here we go. Thank you.
It's a great honor. You all right, my man? Come on, who's first doing? Tall, get in the back.
Yeah, I can do it.
How's Chris doing, right?
That was good. Playing hockey, Dad. He's coaching 2 hockey teams now.
Oh, he is?
And they're traveling all over. They're at the age now where they go to Canada,
How many brackets did you do? Okay or not?
I guess.
I can kneel down in front if you want. I may not be able to get up, but I get. You like Virginia or not?
I did.
Virginia, Michigan.
I don't like them. Like I don't like them, but yeah, Michigan State.
Texas too, I believe.
Yeah.
Who knows basketball?
Yep. Yeah.
I played a lot of games over there when I was at Dallas. I used to play them all the time. He cheated. What? Was that intentional?
Looking this way, sitting up nice and tall. Good. 1, 2, 3. We'll take a couple. Let me just check. One last time. Thank you.
We got it. No worries.
Get out of your way.
All right, I had to get over there, but.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this regularly scheduled town board meeting. For those of you who have never attended a town board meeting before, we will first have public hearings followed by an administrative calendar. There are meeting agendas available in the rear of the pavilion. If you'd like to be heard on any matters, please go to the rear and fill out a slip, which you can hand to a public safety officer. After the meeting is adjourned, the town board will follow our custom of 350 years and remain in session to hear residents who would like to address the board on other matters. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Supervisor Gillen,
Here?
Councilman Ambrosino,
Here.
Councilman Blakeman, Councilman Diaz-Bazito, Councilman Dunn, Senior Councilwoman Guzzi, Councilwoman King Sweeney.
I now would ask Councilmember Dennis Dunn to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Rise, face the American flag, place your right hand over your heart, and join me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Supervisor, if I may have a personal privilege. On September 11th, 2001, we lost a lot of Americans at the attack on the World Trade Center. One of them was my nephew, Tommy Jurgens, who was a court officer who was giving first aid on the ground floor when Tower 2 collapsed on him. One of the others, and many, was police officer George Howard, Authority Police Department. George was not supposed to be working that day. He volunteered to come in off duty and rushed to the World Trade Center. And while he was administering first aid, the building collapsed on him as well. It is estimated that between NYPD, FDNY, PAPD, and the state court officers, that 25,000 lives were saved by the first responders. George Howard's mother, Arlene Howard, passed away this week. And although she wasn't a resident of the town of Hempstead, she was a resident of the town of Oyster Bay. She was active in many organizations in the town of Hempstead, many veterans organizations. On her passing, she was 95 years old. And she was one of the first women to join the United States Navy when they accepted women. She was a World War II veteran, and she was a person who gave strength to all of those, including myself, who lost friends and family members on 9/11, even though she lost her son. And as a matter of fact, one of the most poignant things was she met with then President Bush, 43, at the World Trade Center site when President Bush came to speak. And she presented President Bush with George Howard's police shield from the Port Authority, of which President Bush states that he carries that with him every day. I would ask that we just rise for a moment of silence for both George Howard and Arlene Howard and all of the innocent victims of 9/11. Thank you.
Arlene was a county commander of the American Legion, which monthly meets here in Hempstead, and I was a county service officer under her reign, so she was a wonderful, wonderful woman. Thank you for having a moment of silence, Bruce.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the first public hearing?
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove a one-story wood frame, one-family dwelling with attached garage and remove all litter and debris from the property in Garden City South.
Okay, I have a number of slips of those who'd like to be heard. The first is Nancy Burns. If you'd please come forward and sit at the table. Good morning. If you would just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Nancy Bernius, and my address is 12 Lane, Bridgewater, New Jersey.
Good morning. My name is Bradley Siegel. I'm an attorney who's been hired by Ms. Bernius regarding this matter.
Okay.
My address is 591 Stewart Avenue in Garden City, the Siegel Law Firm.
Okay, you may proceed with your comments.
If I may, on behalf of Ms. Bernius, Ms. Bernius is here as a family member for Mr. Tynan. The first matter on the calendar regards a proceeding where the town has put forth to demolish his home. Ms. Bernius has been in touch with the town officials, Schwartz. She's in the process of getting appointed officially on behalf of the estate. And the reason we're here is to allow her to be appointed and to see that the house does not get demolished. A terrible tragedy, for those who know, occurred within the town. One of the residents who is not at full mental capacity was found dead. Ms. Bernius reached out to her cousin back in December and was concerned to let her speak to that. And the purpose of us being here is to see that this house not be demolished and allow her to be duly appointed so that she can take the affairs and put them in order and take care of her family member.
Counselor.
Good morning. Excuse me. Sorry. First of all, I'm very, very sorry for your tragedy, for your loss. But I believe that notice was given to the family about the situation in this house, and that our building department has determined that it's a public risk to public safety. Commissioner, if you would just come and speak a little bit about the history of this property. Mr. Siegel, would you mind if the commissioner just sat there so he could speak into the microphone? And
Good morning. Yes, the town received complaints about this property in 2017. And then on June 27th in 2018, we received a call from the Nassau County Police Department, ESU, and Adult Protective Services that they had to break down the door to do a well check. When they did a well check, unfortunately, they found the person living inside unconscious and unresponsive at that time, and they took him to the hospital. At that point, we did a survey of the house. It was full of debris that can be combustible materials, about 2 feet up. There was only 2 lights working in the home. There was no kitchen working. There was no bathrooms working. There was food debris throughout the entire home. So we secured the home at that time.
Commissioner, is there any imminent danger to the public right now?
At this time, we have probably caught approximately 40 rats that were in the neighborhood. I believe there's members of the community and neighbors that are here today that I believe would like to speak about the conditions of this house. And it is definitely a public nuisance. The conditions inside are terrible. Electrical safety issues, fire safety issues, etc.
Commissioner, there have been outreach to the family of the person who lived in the house. Has there been any outreach or notice to them to correct the problems and the violations within this house?
Yes, we've reached out, and she has spoken to Ray Schwartz from my office, and they're trying to, I believe, get title. I believe she's one of the cousins, and she's trying to get all the other cousins to sign off so that she can take control of this house.
Okay, so what is being done in the meantime to protect the neighborhood?
Correct. Right now, the property is secured, and as I said, we've caught approximately 40 rats, and we're still in the process of doing that.
Okay, so who's paying for the eradication of the rodents?
The town of Hempstead hired a exterminator to place the rats, and it'll be put on the property later on when they're complete.
Okay, and the owners of the home would have financial responsibility for that, correct?
That's correct. There'd be a liens put on the property.
Okay, now, Counselor, how long will it take for your client to get legal authority to act on behalf of the house? Yeah, please.
My client, Ms. Bernius, has been diligently working to get into that place to be appointed. Her cousin was found dead in Suffolk County. It's unknown how he got there. He was of limited mental capacity, didn't drive. The Suffolk County medical examiner just last week identified the body officially, and now Ms. Bernius is in position to get a death certificate and to proceed. So she's been in touch with Mr. Schwartz, I believe he's in Inspector Services, he's in charge of that, and has been telling him all along. I mean, as to the notice, so to answer your question.
What's the story with the temporary letters? You can get temporary letters, right?
That, Ms. Bernius has hired a separate estate attorney, so she's working through that. I don't think it happens in a day. It could take a couple of weeks, but she's going to do everything that she can to expedite the process. I mean, and in terms of the notices, Ms. Bernius was in touch with Mr. Schwartz in January. On January 4th, one of the notices under Chapter 90 was sent to Mr. Tynan, who's, of course, was dead, and to his parents. And then after that, they sent another notice, again, to the same Mr. Tynan and his
I understand. It sounds like a very complicated situation.
But my point is, I'm sorry to interrupt. My point is Mr. Schwartz knows of Ms. Bernius, and he didn't send the letters to her.
No, I understand, but the problem is for the people that are living in the neighborhood, the rodent problem, and obviously the condition of the property. So the fact of the matter is that we have to go forward and make sure that the property is secure and that the rodents are eliminated so they don't create a blight on the neighborhood. At the same time, we understand that your family has property rights. So, Commissioner, typically we give 30 days for them to get everything in order. So if I were you, I would let the court know, the surrogates court, that you need some kind of emergency authority with respect to the house, that you act diligently to get that, and we always give 30 days before we do anything to give you a chance to get your affairs in order. So if you do those things and you show progress, they won't demolish the house. But if you don't, they will demolish the house. So those are the things that you have to do in order to get relief and get things done, because you have to understand the neighbors can't tolerate the situation the way it's been allowed to exist for too long.
And Ms. Bernius is aware of that. If, to the extent that this is happening with the rodents, Ms. Bernius, his interest is aligned with the town's.
Is there a mortgage on the property?
No,
No.
So you own it free and clear?
don't free and clear, yes.
Yes. So
That's the current.
Well, I
So
don't
you
know,
would be-
who owns this, who owns the property free and clear?
Right now, it's in limbo because Robert is deceased and there is no estate established.
Was title held in Robert's name?
Yes, it was.
yeah, they got to get it. They got to get it to the estate. So would you be willing to assume financial responsibility if the town immediately took more aggressive action with respect to the rodent situation?
Well, if I would say that Ms. Bernius, just to answer that, would like to independently verify what has been alleged regarding the rodents and what's needed. I mean, we reviewed the survey report. The report by the town's engineer, Cashin, I believe, doesn't recommend demolition. It recommends making the house safe and secure. So what the report says, which you all have, is if the town deems it needs to be demolished. There doesn't seem to be putting aside, and we're
what's the situation? Does it need to be demolished or just remediation?
Remediated right away. However, we can't just go in and start removing the belongings that way. So it would be up to the people who, if she can get title, to do that. Again, there's so much food debris in there, so as we continue to catch the rats, until it is cleaned out, they're not going to leave.
Well, what would stop you? I mean, there's nobody to complain if you went on the property, hired a group to clean the inside of the house.
No problem doing that. I would like to do that. I was advised by the building department that I do not have the right to enter the property because I don't have legislative administration.
So, in other words, if we pass this today, the game plan of the building department is to go in, clean the house, but not demolish it.
No, what we would do is we would demolish the house. So, again, the problem is that we just can't take control of what the stuff is inside there. I don't know if he has valuables in there or not, but they're not allowed to enter because they don't have titles in the house.
Okay, so why do you have to demolish the house if it's not necessary, and you just told me you could remediate it?
Well, again, they can't do it, and we're now in this catch-22 right now.
But if we give you authority today and go forward, you could go in and clean the house, because if you can demolish it, you can clean it, right?
We don't really have a contract to do that, but we could look into that. But
I can look into that.
The interior of the house is heavily impacted. It will probably cost more to empty the house out than it would to demolish the house.
Can I just interrupt 1 second? Why don't we hold off on any, let's hear from the neighbors here, before we make any decision. Because I'm concerned, the decedent didn't leave a will. This is going to be a proceeding for administration.
We don't know. I haven't had access to his bank
Has a
deposit.
petition to compel production of the will been made? Did you make that petition?
Ms. Bernius hired a lawyer to handle all that. She's not going to be able to answer.
Has anything been filed yet?
I don't have a death certificate yet.
Okay, well, this is, the problem's going to be, is that, I'm familiar with surrogates court proceedings. 30 days is never going to happen, to be honest with you. You're talking 6 to 9 months. And while I appreciate your sentiment of you and your family, and I'm not really sure of the nature of your relationship to the family, under the surrogates court, you're representing that you're a cousin, but a lot of people could be ahead of you under the state statute to take the place of the administration.
There is an uncle ahead of me, and he
Okay,
signed
so
off a
therefore,
waiver.
okay, so that's very important. So the uncle is going to have precedence over you.
He signed a waiver,
A waiver of what?
giving me authority to move forward to.
Okay, but he's going to be appointed before you, so he's probably the person we should talk to. While I appreciate your sentiment, raise a hand. Who are the neighbors here from Garden City South? I'd like to hear from them. Where do you live, ma'am?
Mr.
Hold on
Councilman,
a second, hold on a second.
what's the reason to demolish this house?
Hold on 1 second. Where do you live?
I live in New Jersey.
Okay, these people live in Nassau County, in Garden City South. They're our constituents, they're our taxpayers. I'd like to hold your comments in abeyance. I'd like to hear from the tax-paying citizens, because they're our constituents, and then we can address your issue. Can we hear from them now?
So I'm a town of Hempstead resident. What's the reason this house would need
Why
to be
don't you
demolished?
remediate the house then?
Pardon?
I'm joking.
No, but what's the reason this would have to be demolished?
No, I'm
If
not
the town
saying,
is
but I
is
think we
taking
need to
care
hear
of the
from them.
rodents and
The real
there's...
the real stakeholders here are the neighbors on the street who are dealing with this. Let's hear from them, then we can make a decision.
But if there are
We do have a
rodents,
number of
why would
other
that-
slips of people who'd like to be heard on this public hearing.
And Supervisor,
there's a-
can we hear from the neighbors?
But what's the reason why the house would be demolished if there are rodents? There's a disconnect.
Because that's the law, but let's hear from the other people first.
All right, thank you so much for your comments. We're going to be calling the next slips for the public hearing. Ellen Andrickson.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Ellen Andrusek. I'm from Franklin Square, New York. I live in the town of Hempstead, and I'm representing the Community League of Garden City South. And we have gone around and seen and spoken with the building department about the house. The house is unsafe. If you have small children, I certainly wouldn't let my children out playing in the area there because of all the that have been seen. I spoke with a neighbor last night, yesterday afternoon. She said at nighttime when they come home, if they shine lights over by the house, they find the rodents running around around the house and so forth and in the neighborhood. And not only that, but there are 2 schools located several blocks from this house, which is Gary High School, Junior Senior High School, and also Washington School, which is the grammar school. And our main concern is the children and also the neighbors that live right around and next door and in the vicinity of the house because of the rodents. And I had asked yesterday with the code if I could see the inside of the house, and they refused my entrance in the house because of all the debris and all of the clutter that is inside and in the house whatsoever. So we feel that the house should be demolished and then rebuilt again. And we would also like to know if there has been a family member around, where was she when this person Robert Tynan was really needed help before he had passed away.
Ma'am, do you have anything to add?
I'm Margaret Kelly. I also signed to speak. I'm the president of the Community League of Garden City South. This was brought to my attention back in June when Mr. Tynan was removed from the house. And since then, I've passed by multiple times. There's been no improvement to the exterior. The exterior is an eyesore to all the neighbors that are in the area. At any given time, we can see rats, okay? And as Ellen has said, the school is right there. The school is a very true danger to these children that pass by, that walk past this house during the day. Until the problem inside the house, and I understand the gentleman was taken out, it was for medical reasons. He had been defecating and urinating in the area. All that human waste gets soaked into the floorboards and the structure of the house, deteriorating it immensely. So it's not just a matter of removing the debris that's inside, but it's a matter of gutting out that house, taking it back to the beams, and hopefully the beams will withstand new structure. In addition to that, the rats aren't going to go away. As like anybody will tell you, if there's one, there's a million. There's going to be nets throughout that house, not only the house, but the garage, both structures.
Michelle, since we have 2 slips of these ladies, we'll give her another 3 minutes. Go
There's
ahead.
2 structures there that need to come down. The people that live there, they look at this day in and day out. I have a letter from the Community League to the board, and attached to that is a front picture of the house. And this is after Nassau County Police Department had to cut their way through the bushes and the front overgrowth to get to the house, to break down the door, to get into this gentleman that needed help. My question is for this woman, and believe me, my heart goes out to her for the loss of her family member, but this was back in June of 2018. Why wasn't somebody stepping in at that point to make this house safe for this man to come back? He was under Nassau County. They were the ones that released him, not the town of Hempstead. He was at Nassau County Hospital. He was released 5 days after being admitted. Where was his family then? Why didn't somebody step in at that point to take care of the problem so the man could go back to a safe home? It wasn't done. Now it seems to be an estate issue. The people of this community cannot wait for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, or as Mr. Ambrosino said, months for surrogate court. This is the livelihood of people that pay good taxes and need to come home every day and look at this house and look at rats running around. And I'm sure they've all been impacted by the rats because they don't just stay in one place. I would appreciate the consideration that this house be demolished, as well as all the structures on that property. And let's start new and give the people that are paying their taxes what they deserve as the town of Hempstead residents.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, I don't.
Felix Procacci? Oh, if you give that to Michelle, she'll make a copy.
Felix Procacci, 1165 Bond Street, Franklin Square. I first want to say that I've had two houses on my block where it was a similar situation. One had a whole drug lab in the basement, and when the guy died, it was abandoned. The scroungers came. There was no plumbing, no heating, no electric, no anything on the house, and it was sold at auction, and the contractor who bought it renovated it and didn't have to tear down the structure. And there's a lot of work done. There was a code enforcement officer, Friday in front of that house, just sitting there doing nothing. I'm not going to ask why, because I will not get a straight answer, but why did they just sit there and do nothing in front of a house? I'm not sure what purpose that serves, but that's what it appears, that this house is not so damaged beyond repair that it can be cleaned out. If there's imminent danger, like Joe Ross says, if there's a reason to go in the house, he made the argument with the zombie home law and everything else that we passed a few years ago. If there is a public safety issue, I'm not sure why you want to rip it down, but you don't want to just do the simple thing and clean it out, which will then you could put the traps and catch the rats, and even if you tear it down, the rats are going to scatter. You're still going to have the rats there. You need to clean out the debris to fix the structure. So it seems like you're using a cannon to do a job that a rifle can do, and I think it's just over the top. To tear down a house because you have rats. Would you tear down your house if it was you came back and there was like 40 rats, or would you just get rid of the rats? I mean, I think that you should use some prudent judgment here. Ripping down a house is a big thing, and it's very costly, and you could basically just get rid of the rats, clean it out, and use all that police power that Joe Ross says that this town has. It's an urgent issue. It's a public safety issue, health and safety. We passed all these laws on health and safety. Use that, that theory, and clean out the house, get it so it's safe, give the lady a chance to get title, or whoever gets title, and then they could remediate it. I lived across the street from a house that like that for 4 years, and the town didn't come by. There was another house there for 2 years, right on my block, within 200 feet of my house, and they didn't rip it down, and these extraordinary measures haven't been taken. And people from Uniondale come and complain all the time about this, and they're not ripping down houses left and right. Here, it's only 2 years. There are houses there 7, 8 years in Uniondale where they complain, and they don't get ripped down.
Felix, is your block close to Harvard Road?
No, it's not.
Oh, I was just wondering while you were hanging out there watching our code
I
enforcement
wasn't
officers.
hanging out there. I went to see it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right.
Okay, because it was on the agenda.
I was just wondering, because I'm sure the people who live on Harvard were wondering what you were doing over
I
there,
lived
too.
on Barn Street when I had 2 houses boarded up.
It was just a question.
I understand.
Relax. All right.
It was an irrelevant question, too.
Robert Anderson?
Hello, my name is Robert Anderson. I live at 320 Yale Road in Garden City South. This is my wife, Linda. I lived in my house for 30 years. My house is directly in back of 319 Harvard Road. And that house has been an eyesore for all those 30 years. And it has gotten much worse the last several years. Back in 2003, a large tree fell on top of 319 Harvard Road. And it stayed there for 13 years before the town of Hempstead came in and tore it down and cleaned out the vegetation back in 2016, I believe. The grounds have never been kept up. There's standing water during the summer. We get a terrible mosquito problem. I have personally trapped and killed over 100 rats in the last 3 years.
And we had the expense of taking care of it. Nobody did it for us.
Commissioner, has the Department of Health been notified of this property? If you just stop the clock.
That tree that sat on the house, the gutters were never cleaned. The amount of mold that must be in that house is probably beyond belief. For 13 years, that tree sat on the house. Okay, and the only thing that's ever been done to that house in 30 years was the roof was replaced by the town, I believe, did it. It has just been a disgrace, that house, and no one has ever done anything to clean up the yard there. I mean, it just stayed that way for 30 years. And the family never intervened, ever. We never, ever saw a guest at that house. Never.
If you would just stop the clock and let the commissioner, if you wouldn't mind, sir, just to let the commissioner speak to the microphone.
Yes, Supervisor, we notified the Department of Health. Years ago, Nassau County Department of Health used to trap rats and set traps. They don't do that any longer. So that's why private exterminators have to do it. And as she stated, they're all over the neighborhood, and it's been going on for a long period of time. And Councilman, to answer your question in reference to why don't we knock it down, just clean it out and stuff, the amount of debris that's inside of that structure would cost more to hand carry all that stuff out than it would. So that would be a huge lien put on that property, making it less desirable for someone to purchase and build another home. Number two is, all the utilities inside the house are not working. As I stated, when we got there, there was one light working upstairs on the first floor, there was one light working on the basement. So the whole electrical system is shot, the sewer system is shot, the water. All these things would have to be done to, and as one of the residents said previously, because of the 2 feet of debris, I mean, when you walk into the house, your head is, I'm not tall, is hitting the ceiling of the room, okay, because there's about 2.5 feet of debris on the floor. The problem is, once we remove that, then we can actually take a better look at the structure. However, under Chapter 90, it talks about nuisance homes, and that's what this is.
So it seems that basically the whole story is that this has been going on for a long time, that the relatives have not taken any action for years and years and years, that the rodent situation and the unsightly way in which the property is kept has been going on, mosquitoes as well, has been going on and on and on. When the government comes in to take control of somebody's private property, it's an extreme remedy, and we have to be very judicious in what we do. However, in this case, after listening to you and the previous speaker, it seems to me that it is warranted for us to take over this house and demolish it because of what's going on. This is one of the extreme cases that I've heard, and so.
Yes, and Councilman.
Well, you can do something in the meantime. I'm sure you have been doing things, but I think in the meantime, we should get the private exterminators there to try and keep it contained until the house can be demolished and the rodents eradicated.
The problem is that there's so much food inside of the house. As you'll hear from one of the neighbors, they would say he would go to Dunkin' Donuts, get stuff, and he never threw garbage out. So that half-eaten banana, that half-eaten donut was thrown on the floor. So the rats aren't going to leave until that is resolved.
No, listen, this is an extreme example, and I think we are warranted in this circumstance to demolish the house.
And just so that the town board is aware, when the town board approves that and we give them 30 days to rectify the situation, if they're working on it and they're working diligently, on the 31st day, we don't go there and knock it down. We work with them as long as they're moving forward. The problem is in a case like this, where there's really no ownership, as Councilman Ambrosino said, it could be 9 months and we could still be in the same boat, and it's not fair to the neighbors.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ma'am, do you have anything else?
Imagine a tree sitting on the roof of a house for 13 years. What the mold situation must be in that years it sat there. I cleaned anything. He never had company. In 30 years, I don't think I've ever seen a light on in that house. Honestly, I mean.
As I said, I've been living there for 30 years, and I think I saw Mr. Tynum, I think that's his name, maybe 6 times altogether, because, you know, he was a recluse, I think. And, but nothing was ever done to the property unless the town came in and you know, cut down all the vegetation, and every time they did that, we had a rat problem again. And as I said, I've killed more than 100 rats over the last 3 years.
We've endured the expense of taking care of that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Rosemary Lancy.
I'll be quick. I basically have this. My name is Rosemary Lancy. I live at 28 Harvard Road, which is 2 houses away from the abandoned. I've lived there for 23 years, and exactly the same as the previous couple said, the house has never been maintained. But it's been vacant for 9 months, and my backyard has been infested with rats. I've had the health department to my house 3 times. I have the certifications. There's nothing we can do because, as the commissioner said, the rats aren't hungry, so they're not eating the rat food. They're just hanging out in the neighborhood, and it's upsetting. Besides the fact of the rats, the look of the house, it's got a big X on it. The town comes and which our taxpayers are paying. The town is coming and cleaning out the property every few months to get rid of the brush, the overgrowth. So it's just basically the same as everyone else. It's not fair to us, the neighbors, to have to live with this house. It's already been vacant for 9 months, and before that, it was not well maintained either. So I just wanted to see that. That's it. Just wanted to represent the neighborhood.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Kay Fatima?
Thank you, Town Council. I don't look like any of your neighbors, I'm sure, over in Garden City South. I am not adjacent, but I'm very empathetic to the community and the homeowner.
Ms. Fatima, I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Fatima, care of Catherine Marshall and Associates, Lakeview, Long Island.
Thank you.
Please pause the tape, the clock, please.
Okay.
Okay, I lost 10 seconds, as the referee would say. Thank you. All the council people here are very well aware of what's going on in these communities. And no one has been addressing any of the situation except this council person, this gentleman here, as to the responsibility of the taxpayer. But then as taxpayers, the town board has the responsibility. There happens to be negligence. Okay, if this gentleman was allowed to live under these conditions, and then after he's been dead 9 months, properties in my community have been vacant and abandoned for 9 years, and the town hasn't done anything. So there's some onus also on the town of Hempstead and the building department and the sanitation department. We can't let these homes get so bad that we got to then demolish them. Homeowners that want to come, families, young families, veterans, would like to perhaps purchase homes. And unfortunately, deceased has to go through all of the probate issues. So it's a thin line you do, but I don't want any of these residents or the homeowner to be deceived as I was deceived last time I was here. You give someone 30 days. After the 30 days, if the banks aren't working, if the courts aren't working, if the communities aren't working, no neighbor should have to endure 100 rats. You know, send that bill to Mr. Ra for the town to pay for that. Okay, you shouldn't have to have the responsibility. For the remainder of my time, please someone in the council address why is it taking so long for the building department to come in and say there is negligence there, there's mental health issues here, there's something going wrong. You show me a person's not taking care of their property, I'll show you persons who need some services that go beyond sanitation and building department, and the mental health services need to be addressed as well.
Ms. Fatima, our building department, our code enforcement officers do not have the authority to enter people's houses forcefully. So in this instance, and Commissioner, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we were called to the scene to examine some vegetation that was overgrown at the house. We issued violations for that, and Commissioner, please jump in if I'm speaking incorrectly. And then we were called by the police, because the police, Nassau County Police Department, who has the authority to forcefully enter someone's home, went in and they brought in the County Department of Social Services. We as a building department do not have that authority to just go into people's homes and make mental health evaluations of them. Is that correct?
I agree with you there, but the building department can call the police department, okay, and say, we suspect that there's something, because I've spoken with the police department, and they have the direct cell phones to the building department. I know they're in direct connection. They work together. They work tantamount together. So that can be done. That can be done. We have to devise a way. We have to think of a way.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fatima.
Thank you.
I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard?
Rory Gordon, Hauppauge, New York. Is the who's going to answer my questions? I don't see Joe Ron. I don't see the supervisor.
We're up here, Rory.
Okay. Is the supervisor...
She's got a microphone in the back.
Thank you. Is the supervisor of inspection services Ray Schwartz overseeing all Chapter 90 properties? Is the supervisor of inspection services in charge of overseeing all Chapter 90 properties?
The one who is ultimately responsible is the commissioner of the building department and this board.
Okay.
There are people who have various responsibilities, but the ultimate responsibility rests with our commissioner and with us.
Regarding the Chapter 90 law, to avoid taxpayers' endless litigation, which costs the town taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars, what measures have been taken to make changes to the code since litigation commenced of Philip Williams versus the town of Hempstead and Ray Schwartz in the 2016 case?
Why don't you wait for public comment, because that has absolutely nothing to do with this application before us.
Well, it does, because what I'm going to say is, besides sending endless notices to Chapter 90 locations, what due diligence does a town do to locate property owners?
What due diligence do we do to local property owners?
Yes.
We try to give notice.
Sending it there. There's conflict.
I'm going to let...
Okay, besides sending notices to Chapter 90 locations, I asked what due diligence the town does to locate property owners. I feel the conflict in the code leaves the interpretation vague on the procedural issues regarding proper service of a property owner. Proper service of a Chapter 90 would be most logical to be sent certified mail return receipt. I think it'd be in the town's best interest to take on a more responsible position and research the property owners or persons which may have an affiliation with the property owner, perhaps title search, an internet search, as the person may be deceased and a more definitive outcome would arise due to the more due diligence as opposed to sending endless certified letters with return receipt. I think revamping of the Chapter 90 law would be advantageous so future cases will not be exposed to litigation and unwarranted expense to the taxpayer. Relatives of Robert Tierney, I don't know how to say his name, sorry, property owner of 319 Harvard Road, Garden City, are here today and are looming perhaps to commence litigation. Although the circumstances may be different in the two cases, the outcome is ultimately the same for the taxpayers. Taxpayers will be paying attorney's fees, and neither the building department or the town attorney or town board has done anything to make amendments in the code after the Philip Williams case to prevent endless litigation, which only makes outside counsel wealthy. Failing to make changes in the procedural operations of the Chapter 90 law leaves it vague as to the interpretation, which puts the town and building department once again in a precarious position. Being proactive helps not only the taxpayer, but the homeowner as well. I hope the situation receives some considerations as I see the code flawed and not being addressed in a responsible way by this town's body. Had this been a different era when Commissioner Joe Nocella reviewed Chapter 90s, I believe these situations would have been handled more dutifully. I believe the lack of knowledge of the supervisor in these demanding positions they hold lead to the downfall of our building department. This is not the only situation the building department has had in the news as of recent. I think an investigation of the department is in order, and I am not sure why 6 out of 7 board members voted down Laura Gillen's proposal less than 2 months ago. Thank you.
All right, I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? No, she already had her time to speak. I'm sorry. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Supervisor Gillen? Aye. Councilman Ambrosino?
Aye, but before I vote, Commissioner, one question for you. If you were to go in and you don't have the authority, but
That is correct, Councilman.
When you, the house, if that passes today, please exercise caution to put a barrier so that the
Yes, we do. And we have to get a letter from Nassau County saying there's no rats within, and then we have 15 days to knock it down after that.
Councilman Blakeman.
Nobody should have to live like that, so I definitely vote aye as well.
Councilman Diaz-Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove a 1.5-story wood frame, one-family dwelling with attached garage and remove all litter and debris from the property in Levittown.
Rory Gordon. I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Number 2, public hearing number 2. Hearing none, may I have a motion? Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Aye. Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Esposito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Petition of Commissioner of Buildings to demolish and remove a 1.5-story wood frame, one-family dwelling with detached garage and remove all litter and debris from the property in Merrick.
Ms. Fatima?
I am again Kay Fatima, representative of Catherine Marshall and Associates, Lakeview, Long Island. We do community advocacy with regards to community issues such as homes. Again, I wanted to make a address and probably the remainder of my time to council people. I very much what I heard in this previous speaker's responses as to the responsibility of what we're doing with these Article 90. I know there's another property that I researched that had Article 90 issued in 2016, and the home still hasn't been demolished. So it seems to be pictures, we go here, we go there. If homes are infested with rodents, then they're obviously being infested in other people's homes.
Madam, that was item number 1. This is public hearing number 3, which is a property in Merrick. Are you talking about that
I'm
property?
talking about all of these homes. Can the building commissioner speak on why they're demolishing this home? Building commissioner?
Can you please come forward?
3 in Merrick.
Yes, I know where we are.
No, I'm telling, I'm letting the commissioner know.
Oh, okay. I didn't know who you were speaking to. Sorry, I wasn't looking up. You have room, Commissioner?
Yes, this house in Merrick is in extremely poor condition. There's holes in the roofs. There's, the structure is not well. This house needs to come down.
Okay. How long has it been in poor conditions?
We first got the call back in 2012, and the people were doing some maintenance to it, and it wasn't structurally needing to come down in 2012. We continued to monitor it over the last several years, and at this point, it does need to come down now.
So how many years are we talking? 7 years, sir?
Yeah, 6.5, 7 years, correct.
And so taxpayers have been paying for building inspectors to go for 7 years. House needed to come down in 20, you said 12, or you kept monitoring it? I mean, every year you monitor it, every month. How talk about the procedure of the monitoring, please.
Well, when we get a complaint, because we're a complaint-driven department, we go out and look at the house. At this point, we have to make sure that it's safe and secure. And what we do is we continue to monitor that, driving by, making sure that it's secure so that the neighborhood children don't break into it and can get hurt and things like that.
Okay, so that this process went on for 7 years, sir?
It was secured the entire time, so it wasn't a problem. It became a problem when the roof started to fail and mold started to grow in the house and the ceiling started to collapse due to the water getting into the house. And as the conditions got worse, now it's to the point where our engineer came in and said, now it needs to come down. It didn't need to come down previously.
So it was vacant for 7 years. It was bank owned?
I believe I'm not sure who owned it at this point. Back in that time.
Well, look in your papers. You have a pile full of papers.
Can I
Someone
ask
owned
a
that
quick-
house.
Can I ask a quick question, Commissioner?
Yes.
With the increase in opiate problems, aren't kids going into houses that are vacant more often now?
Absolutely, they got to
And it's
stay out of
becoming,
the
and
business field.
especially if they're unsafe like that, we've got to do something. And shame on us if we don't, correct?
And this house is still in foreclosure.
So it's still in the court properties. Do we have any ordinances, any rules, anything on the books in New York State that since 2012, can any politicians speak on that could have assisted the town of Hempstead in making sure, A, that taxpayers in the town of Hempstead are not paying to secure these things? There's been $33 million taken by the new New York State Attorney General to assist towns, to assist counties, so that taxpayers are not overburdened with these problems. Can any council person, politician, appointed person speak on that?
Any work that the town does on behalf of a property is put a lien on that specific property. The taxpayers do not bear that cost.
So the taxpayer bears the cost on their property values being lowered, but their tax assessment staying the same. Their property values, if people wanted to sell their home next to it, such as other homes that are going to be on the agenda today or previous agendas, that means that we're just stuck with the problem. There has to be someone that can address this issue before my time is up.
That's what we're doing now. When we're alerted to problems with the home, we go in, we send our code enforcement officers, we inspect the property, we evaluate, we issue notices of violation, we try to get the property owners to remediate the conditions.
It could take, they are aware, so yes, it could take more than 7 years, like the one we just had. So that's what we have to do. We have to follow the rules and regulations of the state.
The rules say that it doesn't take 7. There is no argument, because it's not true, okay? There's no rule that says it takes 7 years, not after 2012. You show me that rule and that law that says it can take 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 years.
Thank you for your comments. I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Number 3, Merrick.
Supervisor, move the hearing be closed and the item adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby? Councilwoman King Sweeney?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in East Meadow near Valley Stream and West Hempstead.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Be closed and that the local law be adopted.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino? Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito? Aye. Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Aye.
Councilwoman King Sweeney?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Baldwin, Belmore, Elmont, and Uniondale.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard?
Good
Good afternoon, Pearl Jacobs, President of Nostrand Garden Civic Association. I just need some clarification as to where these prohibitions will be implemented in Uniondale.
Mr. Reed?
Morning, Supervisor, down board.
Morning.
This particular issue in Uniondale is on New Street. In Uniondale?
New Street. And can you specify the criteria of the...
Well, it's a restriction for a resident to deter cars from blocking his driveway and helping him get in and out of the driveway because the cars are parking too close.
Okay. And I would like to make a comment. I know Mr. Ross, he's not here at the moment, but I did send Mr. Ross an email on March 6th concerning, because at the last meeting I spoke regarding serious parking issues in residential areas of Uniondale, and I did send an email to him, and I'm going to read it publicly. It says, Mr. Roth, thank you. No, I'm sorry. It's wrong. I just had this information. Hold on. I said, good afternoon, Mr. Roth. At the February 26th Town Board meeting, I spoke concerning the need to implement parking regulations in Uniondale. The lack of parking regulations in Uniondale continues to adversely affect the quality of life for numerous homeowners. A primary goal of the Nostrand Garden Civic Association is to achieve quality of life transformation for Uniondale. I am respectfully requesting to meet with you in the Office of Parking Regulations and Enforcement to discuss this most important matter. That was March 6th, and Mr. Raw has yet to respond to me.
I think it would be better if you would maybe speak to Mr. Reed. He controls all our traffic issues. So if you would speak, Mr. Reed, would you speak with Ms. Jacobs after outside? And the senior councilwoman would also like you to speak with her as well about what your discussions with Mr. Reed are.
Thank you. And as a tax-paying constituent and also as a president of a civic association, don't you agree that Mr. Ross should at least respond to my email?
Mr. Raw has so many things. How could he do that?
Please don't make excuses for him.
Listen, I'm not making excuses.
Please
You
don't.
seem to forget I am the councilwoman for that district, and I would like it if you would follow.
Senior Councilwoman Goolsbee, I'm not getting into a back and forth
I'm not
with you
getting
today.
back
I'm
and
just
forth.
saying it would have been respectful if he had at least responded to me, even if he said, I can't speak with you at this time.
But that's not his
That's it.
job.
Well,
That part.
I
That's what
sent
I'm
it to
trying to
him.
tell you so you can get
Well, he
things
should have
done.
steered me in the right direction. I'll speak with you, Mr. Reed. Thank you so much.
It doesn't seem that Mr. Ross here, but I don't think he meant to show you any disrespect.
No, he did not. There are so many things that he does that we need legally. You know, we have ways to get this done.
Rita J. Merritt.
She doesn't like to follow any, she wants to run over everybody.
Senior Councilwoman, your microphone was still on, if you weren't aware of that. No problem. Rita J. Merritt, a Baldwin resident. I would like to know the locations of the areas designated for Baldwin.
Yes, that location is on the corner of Grand Avenue and William Street for the side portion of a resident's home. Again, cars were parking too close to this gentleman's driveway, hindering his ability to get in and out of the driveway. So we're just clearing out some space to get rid of the cars so he has room to get in and out of their driveway.
Okay, so that's the only one that's for Baldwin in that area? Because I mean, I would definitely agree, because that is a significant crossing for us, and it's a dangerous area. And since we still have an issue with the lack of crossing guards, I mean, it is an issue that I keep bringing to the forefront. I mean, a police officer is almost hit, along with myself, 1 block away from that cross section. So it is something that we need to be aware of. So I just wanted to make sure that we were in sync with the location. And how does this tie in with the connection with the police officers to enforce this once you put the signs up?
Well, once we put them up, it's up to the resident, and if they still continue to have a problem with the parking, with the cars in violation, then they notify the police, and then the police will hopefully come down and do the enforcement.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
These notices from the residents themselves requesting, the various changes on their streets or in front of their homes. They send it to us, and then he gets it, and they have to go through it and, make sure that everything fixes the way it should be. That's how we get done. We don't do it on our own.
I appreciate
The
that.
residents do.
I'm well aware of the process, but I guess that would be educational for those who are aware of it. I just wanted to know where it was. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Not working. Okay. It's like in and out. Okay. These high taxes, I seem to get audio visual right.
I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Supervisor, I move the hearing be closed and the item is adopted.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Yep. Okay. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call our next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding traffic regulations in the vicinity of schools in Maryland.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Supervisor, I move the hearing be closed and the item adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding bus stops in North Belmore.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we end the hearing and we vote on that.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding real property tax relief for Cold War veterans.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard?
Rita J. Merriday, Baldwin resident. Just a couple of questions with regard to this real property tax relief. What does that constitute? And what impact and how will those who qualify for it be notified?
Mr. Kovic, I understand you worked on this. If you would please step up.
Thank you, Supervisor. The state law was recently amended to increase the limits for the deductions for Cold War veterans, and the state law specifically authorized by local law municipalities to raise those limits. We have done that with language that ensures that all those who are applicable will get the maximum benefit from the newly enacted legislation. As far as notification goes, I don't know what the customs and regulations are, but we should make sure that all those who benefit are duly notified.
Okay, well, I can address that also. We, those that already have it have been notified, and this is going to be increased with it being that we passed this today. One, two, we did full court press on this. We did press conference. We're going to continue to put this in the media, especially if it passes the board today. We're going to go out again and let those veterans, male and female, that have owned a home, that served during the Cold War, that they're made aware of this. A lot of people aren't aware still.
Right.
And so we're going to continue. We're going to try to do another press conference. We're going to try to get to all the veterans of foreign wars, the American Legion posts, the AMVETS, the disabled American veterans. There's a lot of people that are in the Vietnam Veterans of America that did not serve in Vietnam or in the era that are Cold War veterans. You know, all the organizations were going ahead to make sure that they're aware of this new law that we're opting into. I'm sorry. Good idea. Good.
Why am I the only one that thought of this? Do you have an idea as far as the town of Hempstead, how many? We don't have numbers. That's my problem here. We keep talking about, oh, we're doing a full court press, and you admitted yourself, Councilman Dunn, that people still don't know. So there's still veterans out here who don't know, who are not impacted, who are not getting the information. I mean, we have Korean War veterans who don't even know that since 2008 that the Korean War is now considered a war. So, I mean,
they don't read the papers anymore, so that's why the veterans organizations are the next best thing, and those veterans and their wives and even the widows that go to the auxiliary meetings, they talk at the, at the senior centers, they talk, and we bring it to the senior centers also. I've been part of that outreach also, where we go and we try to leave pamphlets at the different stores, because everybody shops, you gotta buy food. So we're gonna do another full court press on this, because it's a good thing. Every time we do something good for veterans, we gotta get the word out to everybody. Not everybody hears the word, not everybody reads the papers, not everybody watches TV, not everybody goes to a veteran post, but they do go to the stores. So we're gonna try to put things in the stores also.
but they also read their mail. I mean, again, if we don't seem to understand that we need to do the research, set up a matrix, demographics. We claim we have numbers, and we can say that Long Island has the largest veteran population, but we don't know how that breaks down, even though this region has the largest percentage of Korean and World War II veterans in the country, but we still don't have a number. So I'm just hopeful that we can get beyond, well, we're just going to do a full court press and just hope for the best.
First of all, I think you raised a very valid issue, and it seems to me that there might be a remedy for that as far as notice goes. So with Councilman Dunn's permission, since he is the sponsor of this legislation, we will consult with the town receiver of taxes and see if a slip of paper with a notice can be put in with the tax bill so that everybody gets notice. So if you are a Cold War veteran, or you know a Cold War veteran, or you're related to one, that you would get notice. We'll check the feasibility. Do you agree, Councilman?
Absolutely. If you want to amend this legislation to put that in there, I'd second your.
You want to make that motion? I'll second it.
All right, then I'll make the motion that we direct the receiver of taxes to put a notice in everything he mails out that the Cold War veterans are eligible for this, and explain it in layman's terms so they understand that's a good thing that they're doing.
Yeah, I would just say not everything, just the tax bill.
It's just the tax bill, yes.
Okay, I second that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
In addition,
And then also,
The amendment, yes, of what you voted on. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I'm also thinking about as far as Nassau County is concerned, we can include that whatever they sent out, so the veterans who are Cold War veterans would be notified as well.
We can't compel the county to do it, but we can certainly make a suggestion.
No, that's what I'm saying. I would suggest that we put it into the county so that they're aware of it. So when they send out notices as well, as far as assessments are concerned, they can include it in that.
Excellent.
Ms. Verde, also, we have a new Director of Communications, Donna Fantana, over there. If maybe you could connect with her, talking about a better communication plan, how we can reach out to more residents. She's a wealth of knowledge on that, and I think you'd be a great addition to that.
Thank you, Donna.
I'll definitely do that. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Okay, I do not have any other slips on this public hearing.
Need a vote on that amendment.
Oh, on an amendment. Okay, to be clear, we're voting on amendment to resolution number 8 to include a slip with a tax bill making veterans aware of this law. Do I have a motion?
Councilman Dunn moved, I seconded it.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. He's around. Aye. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Aye. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Madam Supervisor, there seems to be issue on the first public hearing as to whether or not it was properly seconded. May I respectfully request that the clerk call the roll again? We do a motion and a second on item number 1.
Mr. Rod, have we voted on the amended?
I'm sorry.
8? I think that's the roll on amended 8. So, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on item public hearing number 8 as amended?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Aye. Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Bazito. Aye. Councilman Dunn. Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
There seems to be some issue as to whether or not the first public hearing was properly seconded. So just to clear up the record, can we have a motion and a second and a recall of the vote on item number 1?
Item number 1, I don't think.
Public hearing number 1.
So may I have a motion on public hearing number 1?
Move the public hearing to close, petition be adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino. Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Bazino. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raw. Madam Clerk, will you call the next public hearing, please?
Application of Gabrielle Truck Sales Ltd. for a special exception public garage to grant an extension for truck repairs and outside storage of vehicles and to include the existing building and modifications in Wood.
Madam Supervisor and members of the board, my name is John Reale. I'm the attorney for petitioner Gabrielle Truck Sales, and my offices are located at 410 Jericho Turnpike in Jericho. This is a petition to modify an existing special use permit which was granted to Gabrielle by this board in October 2014 to use the premises as the public garage for truck repair with outdoor storage of vehicles. Copy of the resolution that approved this use permit were attached to my petition. If I may, I'd like to give you a little background on this application. These premises were purchased by Gabrielle Inwood, LLC, from the County of Nassau in February 2015. These premises were previously used by the Nassau County Public Works Department for storage and repair of their vehicles since about 1960. Gabrielle Truck Sales has been occupying the premises as a tenant of Gabrielle Inwood, an affiliate of the petitioner. As set forth in the petition, we are bounded on the west by Inwood Park, on the north by warehouses on Bayview Avenue, on the east, on the south by the Nassau County Public Works Salt Dome, and on the east by houses. The main entrance to our property is on Bayview Avenue, and there's another gate on Alameda Street, which we keep partially closed and is used only for our employees to gain access to the parking lot in the back of our building. The subject premises is zoned Y Industrial. The facility is used and will continue to be used to service municipal trucks sold to Nassau County, the City of New York, and other agencies. It is now, again, will continue to be used as a public garage for truck repairs and outside storage of vehicles in accordance with the special use permit we obtained in October 2014. Municipal vehicles, when sold, are covered by warranties by the manufacturers, and Gabrielle Truck Sales, as owners of franchises from Mack, Ford, and Kenworth, perform the warranty service on behalf of these manufacturers. There are currently 19 employees at this location, and if the town board approves our application and the building is enlarged as per our plans, we expect to add 30 additional employees, making a total of 49 employees. They work 2 shifts. The work is done from 6 a.m. to 12 midnight and on weekdays, and on Saturday from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m., and we are closed on Sundays. Yeah.
Indoors?
Yes.
There's no outside work done?
No.
Thank you.
Okay. Occasionally, when an extra tall truck comes in, we have to leave part of the truck outside, and we put just a cab inside where the engine is, so they work on the engine, because we can't, they won't fit into the doors, because the current doors are only 11 feet 7 inches high. The proposed addition will raise the roof and the doors to 16 feet, which will allow us to bring the entire vehicle, no matter how big it is, and close the doors, which would keep maybe nice and neat and better environment for everybody. The current building has 10,660 square feet, and the proposed addition will increase that size to 24,320 square feet. We have a pilot agreement with the Town of Hempstead IDA, wherein we plan to create new good-paying jobs and increase the number of employees, as previously mentioned. Again, we cannot increase the number of employees until we get a larger building. In early 2015, we filed an application with the building department to enlarge the building. Since then, we have been working with the building department to get their approval. Since this building was built by the county around 1960, and the county is not required to, nor they did file any plans or obtain permits or COs, we had to, in effect, retrofit the building. We had to bring everything up to speed and bring it up to code before we can apply for this current extension. As a result of these facts, we were delayed all the way along the way, and that brings us to this point right now. We have been good neighbors since we took over the property. We have cleaned up the facility. We have removed old fuel tanks and old fuel pumps. The site plan shows we're going to put screen planting along Bayview Avenue and to shield the building from trucks. And we also show the erection of a flagpole on the northwest corner of the building. We believe the proposed use will not have an adverse effect on the character of the neighborhood, and the use of the premises and relief request is in harmony with the Town of Hempstead zoning ordinance. Again, the grant to get this application will not have an adverse or negative impact on the real estate values in the neighborhood. It will not have any impact on the municipal services, as we use our own private sanitation company. Again, we believe this project, once completed, will result in a beautiful new building which will enhance the neighborhood.
Counselor, do you have any witnesses other than yourself?
I have the architect here, and I have Mr. Gabrielli and one of the vice presidents. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, we met on 2 occasions. During those meetings, I requested with the building department that you modify your plans to include beautification, the planting of trees, and certain other improvements. It appears you did. Is your client willing to covenant that all of the improvements and all the beautification and all the plantings will be maintained according to a high standard?
I'm sure. Not a problem.
Great. Okay, I just want to say that of all the problems that I have in Inwood, you seem to run a very clean operation. The people in the community don't have any serious issues with your operation, and the fact that you're going to beautify it, that you're going to bring more work inside, and that you're going to beautify it is an improvement to the area. So thank you, Counselor. But we'd like to hear if there's anybody from the community on this application. Dorothy, you want to ask? Is there anybody that wishes to be heard on this application? Okay. I'll move to approve the application. There's no slips. Second. I move to approve the application.
Second. Supervisor Gillen?
There are 2 on this? That's Mr. Reale. Sinha?
Mr. Vinod Sinha? He left? Oh, he's gone. All right. Is there any, did you ask if anybody else wanted to be heard on this public?
Yeah, and there's a motion that was seconded by, I made the motion, Councilman D'Esposito seconded it.
Okay. So what was the motion?
To adopt.
All right.
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino? Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito? Councilman Dunn? Senior Councilwoman Gooseby? Councilwoman King Sweeney?
Aye.
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you.
No.
Okay, Madam Clerk, will you call the next public hearing, please?
Application of Lawson Boulevard LLC for a special exception, public garage, to permit use of the subject parcels to be used for an auto body repair shop business with the outdoor storage of vehicles under repair in Oceanside.
All right, good morning. Supervisor, members of the board, Christian Brown, Sunward Kashignan LLC, 3330 Livingston Boulevard, Suite 601, Uniondale, appearing the applicant in the special exception application. As the clerk noted, this concerns an application to utilize 2 parcels that are adjacent to each other on either of Lawson Boulevard. The first is known as 3510 Lawson Boulevard. That's the west parcel. And the second is known as 3511 Lawson Boulevard, or the east parcel. Both of them are owned and operated by the applicant, and they function as one business. It's an auto body repair business. The applicant has been operating out of the east building for approximately the past 3 years, and recently expanded into the west building. Both of these facilities were damaged in Hurricane Sandy and were essentially vacant. Well, not essentially, they were vacant when the applicant took title to both properties. He has since refurbished them and rehabilitated them. It's actually quite a nice looking auto body facility. I think you have some photographs, and I can hand up some additional photographs as well if the board would like to see both facilities. The east building is where the office is located for the business, as well as a floor in the back where body work is done and where the 2 spray booths are located. Both of those spray booths are licensed and approved by the Nassau County Fire Marshal already. That building has 14 parking spaces in the front yard area. That can be utilized by customers, although most customers, of course, in a business like this, are dropping off and leaving their cars for repair. So there's not a tremendous parking demand, but there are 14 parking spaces there. 27 spaces are required by the code, so as part of the process, there'll be some zoning board work necessary as well before we can get a final certificate of occupancy. All of the office functions are on the east side, so all customers who are dropping off and filling out paperwork and so forth go to the east building. They drop off the vehicles, they leave from there. And as I said, also in that facility, behind the office area is a large open floor area for repair work and where the 2 spray booths are located. Across the street in the west building, that building, again, was was damaged by a fire. It became vacant. It was formerly the Leonetti Brothers moving company warehouse. It was abandoned for quite some time and in disrepair. It's been fully refurbished. Again, I think you have some photographs there. You'll see they've done a very nice job in upgrading the building. No customers use that side of the street. That's exclusively used for body work. There are no spray booths in that building. So it's really just a large open floor of a former warehouse where the body work takes place. And mentioned on the last application, all of the work does take place indoors in both facilities. There's nothing at all that goes on outside these buildings, except that on that west parcel, some cars are stored overnight that are awaiting repair. But as you can see, that west parcel is located against the Long Island Railroad right-of-way. There are no homes anywhere near there. It's an L shape, so there's a nice depth. The cars can be kept to the back in the parking lot and behind the building. There are 12 parking spaces on that building, where 23 are required, but again, those spaces are not used by customers or employees. And I should mention the business does employ about 25 people who work during a regular shift. And those workers, office workers, and the repair workers simply park on Lawson Boulevard, and a handful of them also come by public transportation to the site. The business operates 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. Occasionally will operate on Saturday mornings, depending on the need of the business, but generally not past noon if they are there on Saturdays, and they're closed on Sundays. As I mentioned, there's 25 employees working at any one time. Both parcels are zoned industrial zone, and as you can see by the map, and I know many of you are familiar with this area, it's a highly industrial area. All of the uses that surround and abut the premises are either commercial or industrial in nature. There are no residential parcels in the 200-foot radius. Obviously none abutting. There are no side streets that would allow for customer or overflow parking to any way impair or otherwise affect residential areas, because Lawson Boulevard, particularly in this section, is entirely industrial in nature. Again, I would just emphasize that the buildings are rehabilitated. They're very nicely done. I was in both of them, and I was impressed, especially for an industry that's often people associate with grime or junk. It's really quite nice. So it's an improvement to Lawson Boulevard, in no way a detriment to the area. And we would ask you to give the use approval so that the applicant can move on, finish out its work in the building department. And just one final point I want to make. I know there was an inspection report done prior to the hearing, as is the town's practice. Those issues identified have already been resolved or are in the process of being resolved. The permits that the building inspector requested for filing have been filed, so there's now a permit filed for the fence. There's a fire damage permit filed. Both of those have permit numbers. Sidewalk obstructions have been cleared. Sign permit has been filed. The fire extinguishers have been unblocked and checked by the fire department. They apparently passed muster. We'll get rid of the false palm trees.
No.
No, we will throw those overboard.
Mr. Brown, just a couple of questions. First of all, thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to reiterate and, for the record, state and make sure that the items that have been concerned to the building department that were handled during the inspection on March 11th, 2019 are being taken care of in the process of permits being applied for.
Yes.
Commissioner Rockamp, you could attest to that? Okay, thank you.
I have those two permit numbers. As I said, we filed the building permits and the sign permits. I believe the case is going to end up at the zoning board for parking and probably the fence. And once that's completed, all the permits will be closed out, and hopefully we'll get a new CO at that.
Perfect. And just a couple things to also mention for the those in the Oceanside community that may be listening at home. I know that the hours are going to be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, obviously on the weekend as needed.
Correct.
Just if we can make sure that we keep in mind any of the residential in the rear of, obviously not the Leonetti side, but around the area of tow trucks. And I also would like to say, I mean, for those of you that know Lawson Boulevard, it is a tough stretch. It's not the best of areas. There are some businesses that work very hard to keep it clean, and North Star is one of them. You guys, all your shops are very clean. Your trucks are always clean, and they always proudly support a lot of the community. So Mr. Valente, the Capones, the work that you do in the community does not go unnoticed. And for Councilman Dunn, in case you were wondering, probably some of the most patriotic people. There's more flags on their buildings than there are in any other buildings in the town of Hempstead. So I appreciate that. And just listen, what you bring to Lawson Boulevard is very nice. Like was mentioned by Mr. Brown, it is an area of industrial, and it's very rare that in an industrial area you have nice palm trees. So I appreciate that. So keep up the great work, and as long as those are addressed, I don't see us really having any problems. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Councilman, and for the board members' knowledge, my client is here, the operator of the business. He's anxious to do this right and get fully legalized, and I think it does bring it is an enhancement to that area, which does suffer from a lot of vacant buildings and warehouses and so forth.
And just, Mr. Brown, one last thing, because I know that it's always an issue on Lawson Boulevard, and I know that you guys already do a great job of it. Just please continue to make sure that we do our best with blocking lanes on Lawson Boulevard. It's always a tough issue. I know you guys are doing your best, but just if there's any new workforce coming in with the addition of the new buildings, please remind them that Lawson Boulevard is one of those tough stretches, and those either far right or always the far right lane is tough. Just don't want to see anybody get hurt, don't want to see any accidents, and we don't want to see traffic.
Thank you, Councilman. We appreciate your support. I have nothing further, Madam Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I do not have any other slips in this public hearing. Please.
Rory Gordon, Hauppauge, New York. Mr. Brown stated the building was damaged by Hurricane Sandy, Superstorm Sandy. What was the preliminary damage assessment of this property?
We don't have that information right now. I'll try to get the information for you from the building department.
Would Mr. Brown be able to answer that question?
Mr. Brown, do you have the answer?
History, just that they were vacant and had suffered some form of damage and had to be rehabilitated.
I would certainly be welcome to that information. Thank you, Supervisor.
Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move that the hearing be closed and the application be granted.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen,
Aye.
Councilman Ambrosino, Councilman Blakeman, Councilman Diaz-Pasito, Councilman Dunn, Senior Councilwoman Gooseby, Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Okay. Madam Clerk, will you please call the administrative calendar?
Yes, there are items 17 through 53 on the administrative calendar.
Would any of the council members like to sever any of the items on the calendar?
I don't want to sever any items, but I do want to make a motion regarding a number of the items.
Just before we go that, I do have a resolution, an emergency resolution that I'd like to hand up. It's a resolution accepting the gift of ownership of the website name www.toh.li from receiver of taxes Donald X. Clavin.
Okay, so this is supposed to be an emergency resolution?
It is sort of an emergency, being that there's signs, town correspondence. There was 12,000 water bills sent out on February 27th with the old website on it. So what we'd like to do is, if we could approve this today, perhaps we could put a link on the old website linking us to the new website so nobody is caught off guard and unable to get to Town of Hempstead resources.
So my understanding is that this gift was purchased by the receiver of taxes over a month ago. So I don't understand why now, a month later, it's an emergency. I mean, the definition of an emergency is an unforeseen combination of circumstances. The resulting state that calls for immediate action. Can you please explain how this is an emergency, that something that was purchased by the receiver of taxes? I mean, we've been waiting for this political stunt for a while.
Okay. So that now you have
a month
it.
ago,
We're
now
not.
I have the political stunt.
Okay.
Why is this an emergency,
Well,
Council?
first of all, it's not a political stunt. I stated before, about 2 minutes ago, that there are signs, there's town correspondence, there's water bills being sent out, there's signs on parks, on town facilities that has the old website. So all we're asking to do is to make sure that people have the ability to have a link from the old website to the new website that you designed. So my motion is that it is an emergency. We'll do as the town board decides, and we'll go from there. So my motion stands. I have an emergency resolution accepting a gift of ownership of the website name www.toh.li from receiver of taxes Donald X. Clavin Jr., and I believe there was a second.
Okay, so since we've launched our new URL, first of all, the Old Town of Hempstead website was .li, which stands for the Republic of Liechtenstein. So the Old Town of Hempstead website was being hosted in a foreign country, I believe in Vaduz. We decided to bring our website, our Town of Hempstead website, back to the United States. So we got a .gov website. Since we launched our new URL, hempsteadnewyork.gov, last summer, we've had nearly 6 million hits. Of that traffic, people were redirected from our old website, Liechtenstein website, and only slightly more than 11,000 times since last summer. That accounts for 0.2% of our total traffic. Also, of that 11,000, less than 3,000 were redirected since last January. That means people have learned of the new URL and are no longer searching for the Liechtenstein address. As the months go on, redirect traffic from TOH.li will become virtually non-existent. Again, .li is not recognized at a standard top-level domain and is sponsored and administered by the University of Liechtenstein. Why would the largest town in America use such an inherently flawed technology to host the data of its residents? Furthermore, when you look up our old domain name, it is owned by a private vendor, Matthew Kane, who was based in California, an outside consultant, before we brought our website in-house at no cost to the taxpayers, saving thousands of dollars every month in fees for the taxpayers of the town of Hempstead. The tax collector's politically motivated gesture is laughable, as he's ignored the inherent cybersecurity risks associated with a domain that is sponsored, registered, and partially administered by a constitutional monarchy in a different continent. I believe you're in charge of cybersecurity for the Board of Elections. Have you done a complex cybersecurity risk? Oh, you have. Okay.
My question to you is if
I would love to see this cyber. Could you turn it over to Newsday?
Yeah, I'll take care of that after the meeting.
All right, good.
My question to you then is if there's so many people that were being redirected, then why were water bills sent out on February 27th with the old website?
You'll have to ask the commissioner.
Oh, okay, but I'm not asking the commissioner. I'm putting forth a resolution, an emergency resolution.
Our new .gov domain gives the town access to the United States Computer Energy Readiness Team, which deals with any and all incidents involving the intentional and unauthorized access to our cyber infrastructure. This is technology that has been active and available since 1985, yet no one in this town ever bothered to take advantage of it. This is just another example of politics trying to interfere with good government. Madam Clerk.
Point of information, is it Liechtenstein or Liechtenstein?
You can go call up the University of Vaduz and find out.
Actually, I have been to Vaduz, and it is Liechtenstein. It is a constitutional monarchy.
So I think first we have to have a vote on whether or not bringing back Liechtenstein is very imperative and an emergency for every taxpayer in the town of Hempstead. Let's have a vote on whether or not this is an emergency. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Gillen.
No.
Councilman Ambrosino.
On behalf of all the town of Hempstead residents of Liechtenstein descent, I vote yes.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
I'm abstaining with some of these people. I don't know who they are. I don't know, and a lot of people don't know what the new one is either.
Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Yes, I abstain.
So now that's item what? 54. Okay.
Did it pass?
Actually,
Anybody else want to sever any items on the administrative calendar?
Supervisor, but I have a number of motions I'd like to make at this time with respect to the administrative calendar.
I'm sorry. Before when I called the administrative calendar, I said item 17. It should have been items 11 through 53. Okay, sorry. Sorry, Bruce.
Thank you for that clarification.
Councilman Bruce Blakeman will do those for me today, please.
Yeah, so I move items 17 through 54, is it? 11 through 54, typo. 11 through 54. And then I'll have an amendment after that. We need a second, don't we?
It is one, no, it's one motion.
One motion.
What are you going to do?
I move to adopt items 11 through 54. However, I also move that item 20 be adjourned without date.
Just one moment, please, Mr. Rye. I might need you to comment on this. Item 20 is a resolution to pay my attorneys who represented me in my lawsuit. It's Abrams Fensterman. Mr. Blakeman, I believe you're a member of that firm. I don't think you're qualified to. I think you should abstain from anything.
I haven't been a member of that firm in 5 years. So,
We have our ethics counsel here. Mr. Leventhal, maybe you could opine on this.
well, are you saying that I have a conflict because I'm moving to adjourn this?
I personally wouldn't feel comfortable making a motion, or voting on anything that has to do with my former law firm. I would.
Isn't this sort of similar than the vote that you made on insurance broker from a gentleman who was related to the guy who you used to work for, who also chaired your campaign committee?
My law firm
It's
was
different.
not
Okay,
on a
I got it.
resolution.
Sorry, Bruce, I just thought it was the same
My
thing.
law firm, there's never been a resolution having to do with my former law firm, Western and Ball. There's never been a resolution.
No, it was his brother who you said how did you know it's his brother?
Eventually we found out that his brother, a relative of someone who worked at my law firm, worked at a company that came before me. I don't see any ethical conflict with that whatsoever. But that's not the matter at hand. The matter at hand.
I have absolutely no financial interest in the Abrams Fensterman law firm. I've known members of the firm for years. I consider them friends. I don't see as that's the reason to recuse myself. But if you want ethics counsel to opine on it, should I abstain, recuse myself, vote on it? What do you think, Steve?
Thank you. The question when when an issue of a conflict of interest arises is whether there is an actual or potential conflict of interest. Up to this point, I have not heard any facts that would give rise to a conflict of interest. Councilman Blakeman has indicated that he's got no financial relationship with the firm, and there's no reason to believe that he would derive a personal benefit from however the board may vote on this particular matter. So absent other facts that have not been mentioned here and that I'm not aware of, I don't perceive a conflict of interest.
Thank you. And by the way, for an explanation, I am requesting that it be adjourned so that we can check into the legality. I am not against paying Abrams Fensterman their legal fees, so long as it is according to all our rules and regulations and that it is pursuant to an act of the town board. I've asked Mr. Ra to look into the matter. I'm merely making a motion to adjourn. I have no idea how my fellow members of the board are going to vote on it. Some feel, I'm told, that we should not pay the fees of Abrams Fensterman absent a judgment by a court. I'm not sure about that, and that's the only reason why I said that I think that we should adjourn it, but let's see what happens. So I move to adjourn that without a date. I also move that item 25 be removed from the calendar as it is already provided in section 128.56 of the Town Code. I also move to amend item 27 and item 28 as follows. With respect to item 27, I am shocked to find out that our total contribution to villages who have auxiliary police units and those that are in the town of Hempstead that have auxiliary police units, that we've only been contributing $500 to those in the villages and $1,000 to those in the hamlets of the town of Hempstead. And I think that it is wrong that the contribution we make is so low. These are people that are out in the snow. They're out in the rain. They're out on their days off. They volunteer their time, and the least we can do is make a more reasonable contribution. I don't know if this is even adequate, but at least it lets the volunteers of the Auxiliary Police Department know that we care about them and that we feel that they should get a better contribution from the town. I also move that item 38 be removed from the calendar. Excuse me, so let me go back to 27. My motion is that we increase from $500 to $1,000 our contribution. Item 28, that we increase our contribution from $1,000 to $2,000. That item 38 be removed from the calendar. That item 46 be amended to adjourn the hiring dates of the following employees until September 24th. And the reason for that is that we did not budget for them to be hired in this quarter. I think that all the members of the town board realize that we have a responsibility to appoint people from the TASNR list, and that these people are worthy of being appointed and they're entitled to it, but that we would adjourn this until September 24th, when we did budget for the hiring of these individuals: Dawn Marie Bernal Duwan, Chaplain Alexandria Charalambos, Robert Hayes, Douglas Knapp Jr., Anthony Musanti, Megan Reedy, and Vincent Simone. I also move that we add the additional names from the TASNR list that are in the sanitation department, where we do have it budgeted for them to be hired: Derek Moffett, Salvatore Barone, Matthew Block, and Joseph Almodovar, and that they be immediately hired, as we have accommodations in the budget for them to be hired immediately. That's my motion.
Subject to civil service approval. I second that motion, subject to civil service approval.
I would just like to point out, I agree with Councilman Blakeman that our auxiliary police certainly are worthy and deserving of getting an increase in funding, but to say that it's shocking, it actually was in the budget that you voted in favor of. In addition, with respect to the addition of the additional personnel in number 46, I've never seen a personnel action request form for any of these people.
There's a motion and seconded.
Can we move the motion?
That's seconded.
Yeah. Yep. Felix Procacci?
Did they second the motion? What do we do?
Yes.
Okay.
As amended.
As amended.
As amended, okay.
Felix Procacci, 1165 Barn Street, Franklin Square, New York. On the calling of the hearing for the ethics law, I say that we should postpone that date because first, my recommendation from the beginning was always to bring this to residents, because I feel that as far as any ethics be happening in town hall, I don't see that happening enforced by the individual employees for various reasons or the board members. And I think the only way to enforce ethics is to allow the public to make, those, inquiries. I believe, I'm not sure if it's in there in this version. I know it was in there in the previous version, but I didn't get through the whole thing. But once again, it's a very complex document, so I think it should be brought to the public first before we vote on it. Also, I just want to point out that in our existing ethics law, as far as the financial disclosures, we're in violation of it. And I've been bringing this up for a year now, and nobody here brought an ethics inquiry to the Board of Ethics, right? Raise your hand if you did, if I'm wrong. So we're not enforcing current ethics law, and you have the power, I have nothing. I have no, John Ryan told me I don't have authority to bring an inquiry to the Board of Ethics. But all the employees in the town of Hempstead do, and I don't, and it hasn't been done, and we're in violation of the law. Also, on the various offices and positions, once again, I foiled the leaves of absences, and I just was told first I was denied. Then I asked for the reason, which is required by law, and then they said it's an unwarranted invasion of privacy. And then I asked, can you explain that unwarranted invasion of privacy? And I was told to appeal it to Charles Covid. And what do you think Charles Covid's going to say? He's just going to say it's an unwarranted invasion of privacy without expanding on it, because nobody has expanded on it, which is typical of when you make an inquiry to the town attorney's office. You just get something with a period and no explanation as to why. So, that's my problem with these things. And the Board of Ethics can't be picked by the town board. It's conflict of interest. That needs to be picked by somebody else. It has to be someone outside the realm of the town board, because there's conflicts of interest. I brought up one thing was I made my first inquiry into our compliance officer this week because we violated our procurement policy. And I feel that a violation of any rule is a violation of ethics. So I'm asking him to look into that financial consultant we hired where it was $50,000 and there was no bid per our procurement policy.
I am Madden Hempstead. I would just like to understand that better, Councilman Blakeman. With the hiring, could you just review that one more time again?
We have a court order that requires us to hire off of what's called the Tasner list, okay? That's the name of the lawsuit. And basically, we budget for that every year. We typically do the Tasner list hirings in the fourth quarter to save the taxpayers money. We budgeted for it. We are going to do it. It's our obligation to do it. And quite frankly, it's the right thing to do. A lot of these people were promised full-time work. They were given part-time employment. They never made it to full-time work. And it really was a situation that was unjust and unfair. So we recognize that we not only have a legal obligation, we have a moral obligation to these people. So since it wasn't in the budget for the 8 that are on this list, but it is for the fourth quarter, we're adjourning this motion with the anticipation that on September 24th, these people will be hired full-time from the list as required by law and as what is the right thing to do. With respect to the other 4 that we are now adding from the sanitation department, the sanitation department has within their budget the money to hire these 4. So in order to show our good faith to the union, the bargaining unit that represents the employees of the town of Hempstead, the CSEA, as a matter of good faith, we've indicated to them that we would hire immediately 4 people from sanitation that are on the TASNR list, because we do have money for that, and that we would hire the 8 that are on the list today on the 24th in the fourth quarter when we have the money for it, which is then.
And if I could add to that, the 4 that we have on the list today are based on a present business need from the Commissioner of Sanitation. They're in desperate need of employees there.
Mr. Raw, would you please explain to them this history of how we came about with this TOSNA list, why it happened, and who started it?
Many years ago, there started a process in the town where part-time, people worked part-time, were classified as part-timers, but they worked full-time hours. There was a lawsuit brought by the CSEA against the town saying that these people have to be full-time. They meet full-time specifications in everything they do, except that the town continually classifies them as part-time. There was a federal lawsuit, and as a result of that federal lawsuit, there was a stipulation of settlement where the town agreed to hire 30 people off what became known as the TOSNR list, because TOSNR was one of the plaintiffs. So every year, until the TOSNR list is expunged, the town has to hire 30 people per year off of that list.
But tell them what started it in the first place, because the town was not doing it until when? Who was the person that initiated it?
I'm sorry.
Remember the Gooseby versus?
Councilwoman Gooseby?
That's right.
Oh.
Tell them how.
Come on, these are easy questions,
Tell them.
Even I know the answer.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby advocated and fought for these part-timers, and the federal lawsuit was then brought, and yes.
Mr. Conroy, could you opine whether or not we have the money for the 8 people that were on the list now, and whether we'll have the money for the 8 people if we postpone their hiring until September 24th?
Good morning. How are you? I'd be happy to, Councilman. As far as the hiring to the 4 sanitation, what we've done is what's incorporated into the budget, the 19 adopted budget, was vacancies worth $865,000. What we did of those vacancies, carved out 20 hirings for TOSNR and funded those accordingly. That's for $225,000. Heretofore, what we have exhausted in terms of funds in sanitation is $335,000. So what's remaining is approximately $300,000. In addition to that, since... Yes, it would. Yes, it would. In addition to that, we have 1 leave of absence, which is worth about $80,000 that has occurred since the beginning of the year. And should that stick for the remaining of the year, there's another $80,000 on top of that.
And what about the hiring of the 8 people on the list now rather than in the fourth quarter? Would that create a budget issue?
I would believe it would. I'd have to go back and check the math on that. I have to check what they're going to be hired at, but it could possibly create a problem in the budget, yes.
Mr. Lockeruba, could you speak to that issue, please?
Aruba has those figures?
Good morning. When we initially put forward the 8 folks off the TOSNR list at the supervisor's request, based on the way that the budget was crafted and subsequent to even the budget hearings, it was never once mentioned that the funding for the Tosner folks was not going to be there for the entirety of the year. And we were looking to do this consistent with how we did it last year, where we appointed people throughout the course of the calendar year. With respect to there being no funding, even on this current agenda, the transfer of Patricia Acevedo from the building department to the Parks Department frees up a prorated amount of money of over $50,000 in the building department, yet the comptroller's office said there's no money to hire somebody off the Tosner list at $41,000. So we're not sure where those calculations are being made, where it's stated that there's no money for these 8 folks on the Tosner list, because we feel there is.
So, Mr. Conroy, when the budget was adopted, were the people that are on the Tosner list budgeted for to be hired now or in the fourth quarter?
To be hired in the fourth quarter, and more specifically, December of the fourth quarter.
Okay, but we want to amend that now so that they don't have to wait till the end of the year that they can get.
Just a point of clarification, that's the way it was historically done.
Excuse us, one at a time, please.
Okay, can I finish? Thank you. So basically, this, according to the estimates that we looked at, if we delay it until September 24th, it would save the town approximately $200,000. Does that sound in the ballpark?
That's about right, about $250,000.
Okay, thank you.
So just to clarify, historically, the people on the Tosner list that are required, these are people who've waited for a really long time to go from part-time to full-time. It was a priority of my administration that we implemented last year, this is not new, to not make those folks wait to December to get full-time employment. So last year, it was a priority of my administration to try to give some relief, get those people full-time working who've waited so long for this opportunity, get them on the payroll, get them full-time. And we implemented last year, putting them in, I guess, approximately quarterly. We would divvy up the list. We're required to hire 30 people each year. We divvied up the list, and we put these people forward so that some people who had been waiting on the list, and there is an order to the list, who had been waiting on the list, get the opportunity to work full-time, to do something really nice for our workforce, to make them feel that we in the town of Hempstead care about them. The people, we did it last year. This is not new. We did it last year. We wanted to do it this year. And the people that we put forward, I put forward these people on the Tosner list, are the people who are next in order to get that. And when we did the budget, we anticipated that we would do just what we did last year, is put forward the people on the list in order. They've been waiting, and put them forward. And Mr. Lackaruba said when we did the budget, there was money for it. So I'm a little bit confused why we're saying there's no money for this.
I think, Supervisor, and by the way, at least I share your concerns with respect to the people on the Tosner list, and that's why, we're going to do the 4 sanitation workers today, and that we're not going to say no to the 8 because that would be unjust and inequitable to them, but we delay it because it would cost the taxpayers an extra $250,000. I believe last year we did them all in December. Mm-hmm. So we did the list in order in December last time. Now we're going to start in September, so it's an improvement. And we're putting on the 4 sanitation people today, which is an improvement. So I think we're all on the same page. We have to do it, but we have to do it in a fiscally responsible way. And perhaps this year's budget will address the issue of trying to accelerate that process. But under the budget that we have now, those hires were anticipated for the fourth quarter. Am I right, Mr. Conway?
Correct.
May I ask a question?
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Conway, last year, I think all those people who were on the Tosner list were included in the number that the supervisor included that we had hired, kept when the supervisor, am I right?
Yes.
Were they included in that 199?
Yes.
Okay, well, those were people who were on the Tosner list, so we did it at the end of the year, last year.
Correct.
Okay. So
That was 2017. In
That-
2018, people came off the Tosner list before December. It's a matter of fact. I'd be happy to show you the resolutions where we hired people off the Tosner list before December. You're thinking of 2017, prior administration.
No, but
In
that's
my
what you
administration,
sued us on. This is
people came off the Tosner list in 2018 before December.
But didn't you sue us for that? That's what the lawsuit was all about? Because those were included in the 199.
I'd be happy to explain the lawsuit
No,
to you.
you
at
don't
some
have,
other
no,
time.
I don't want to hear about your lawsuit.
Okay.
Because you sued me and I didn't vote against it.
Can I
But
just add, Mr.
I don't want to hear it.
With regard to the numbers, just so that we can understand, there are proposed 8 employees on the Tosner list right now, and you're giving the approximate number of, that would cost today about $260,000 that we haven't budgeted. But if we continue in 2 weeks to do another 8, and the following 2 weeks, another 8, we're looking at a number that's going to greatly increase between now and the proposed September date. So it's not a one-time hit of $260,000 that's unbudgeted. If you start adding up all of these Tosner employees, we get to a pretty big number that has not been budgeted. So it's a lot more than just $250,000 that we're looking at potentially going forward with these advancements of the Tosner list hirings. Is that correct?
It is correct to the extent that we'd have to schedule out all of those hirings. The timing is very important to determine and then compare that to the budget. You have your actual to compare to the budget to arrive at exactly what that adverse effect would be on the budget.
Right, and that adverse effect, I think it's fair to say, would be greater. It would be north of the $250,000 that we just referenced, and it's not in the current budget.
It would be safe to say that.
Okay, and I'm just to state for the public and for the members of the union who are here, I think that all of us on the board care deeply about our union workforce, all of our employees, but we also have a fiduciary responsibility to all the town of Hempstead residents, and that's why we delivered a 4% tax cut. And it's my job as a council member to look after the financial well-being of those residents and to keep my promises. So that's why we're going forward with this. There is a direct present business need, as demonstrated by the Commissioner of Sanitation, to hire these workers, and it's budgeted for. It would not be responsible for me, and I believe my other board members, to go ahead and hire these people off the Tosner list just to curry political favor.
And may I add, too, we have a problem now because it's April. This is April. This is during the time when we do much more cleaning and making sure things are more in better order in the sanitation department than any place else. And the residents are expecting that. So we do need to ask for people. We need them to be able to do what we usually do starting in April. So we need sanitation people directly now.
Aren't you glad you asked the question, Diane?
What I don't really understand is that it seems to me that this is a matter of weeks, really. 12 weeks, is that correct?
12 weeks.
It's in the ballpark.
Right. So I don't understand why you're grandstanding on this, Laura. I really don't. I can tell you, after being involved for 18 years and hearing now what I hear from many employees in the departments, they don't feel affected by you. So why you're taking this issue over a few months, I agree that there are many employees deserving of full-time work that are waiting too long. But it seems to me very reasonable to wait until September, so you keep the taxpayers in mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Conroy, if you could just stay there for a few minutes. We have a move that's on the personnel calendar that I believe you approved for Patricia Acevedo, and my understanding is that there's no money in the budget for this move. Why was it put on the agenda?
In all due respect, Supervisor, I would have to go back and check my records. There are 26 departments. There's a lot of activity. I don't have that readily available.
But don't you have to sign off on personnel
I do, and
actions?
I do, and those are in my notes. Again, I would like to refresh my notes to answer your question.
So can you look at your notes before we vote on this? Because I understand there's no money in the budget for Patricia Acevedo, and you're saying that there's no money in the budget for all these Tosner people who have waited for years. Although my finance director, who worked on the budget with you, said that was in the budget, that we budgeted, just like we did last year, to promote these people, to give them the opportunity full-time. Dawn Marie Bernal, Dulon Chaplin, Alexandria Charla Mombos, Robert Hayes, Douglas Nab, Anthony Musante, Megan Reddy, Vincent Simone, people who've been waiting years to be full-time, who are number 1 through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the list. They've been waiting, and now they're going to be delayed. You tell their Diane Madden might not think it matters, but their families, I think it matters if they get full-time. So my finance director said we anticipated it in the budget that she worked on with you. But I have information that Patricia Acevedo, there's no money in the budget for her, but we're moving her. Ms. Madden, your time is up. Your time is up.
I came up to
Mr.
this
Conroy?
board many times to speak on behalf of Ben Mento, who waited many years and finally.
Excuse me, Ms. Madden, please step away from the microphone. Your time is up. Nobody gets more than 3 minutes. Mr. Conroy, please answer my question.
I'm a little confused as to your question, Supervisor. If I can explain, 26 departments, the budget calls for what we have as salary adjustment and vacancies to fill those positions that you're referring to. There is quite a bit of personnel action moves since January 1st. So what we do is we account for all the moves against what funds are available. Those funds available are vacancies and, again, salary adjustment. So any of these items that I have signed off on, I have work papers supporting all of my actions. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me, and if I did, the binder's about this big. So I don't truly understand your question, but I can tell you the integrity of this process is intact, and I stand behind anything I have signed, and I am in a position to justify it.
Mr. Lacaruba, with respect to Ms. Acevedo, were you told that there is no money in the parks budget to accomplish this move?
It's not what I was told, Madam Supervisor. It's what's contained on the PAR from the Comptroller's office, where they said per town fund, with respect to availability, he checked off no.
So according to you, there's no money for this move?
According to the work that we had done and all of the transactions that occurred in this particular department, there are no funds available. And again, I have work papers supporting all of this.
So how can you support this move if there's no funds available?
It's in this particular department. The move we're talking about is sanitation, which is basically flush with money.
But my question is you're saying you can't support taking people off the Tosner list because there's no money available, but yet I have a personnel action for Ms. Acevedo, and you said there's no money available, so why is this on the agenda?
Ms. Acevedo, I apologize if I mispronounced, is in the Parks Department. Separate and distinct department, carries its own funds for things like raises and reinstatement and hirings and the like. I signed this, it looks like I signed this on March 13th, and according to my records and all the work that we've done in the Parks Department, there were no funds available to accommodate this PAR.
So why is it on the agenda? You're saying we shouldn't vote on things when there's no money available, but there's no money available for this move.
I don't put the agenda together. I can't ask. What I do is comment on funds availability, and my comments are limited to funds availability.
So would you recommend that this move should not go because there are no funds available?
I'm not in a position to recommend anything.
Well, you recommended that we don't hire the Tosner people because there's no money available. So that if you're saying there's no money available for this transfer, I'm asking you to make a recommendation.
No, I didn't recommend don't hire the Tosner people. What I said was if we are to hire the Tosner people as it stands today, timing of it would not be appropriate as compared to what was budgeted for those hirings.
Are there sufficient funds in the Parks Department to make an adjustment to hire Ms. Acevedo? Is that her name?
Acevedo, yeah.
Acevedo. Are there funds in the Parks Department to hire Ms. Acevedo?
As of the date that I signed this, which was on March the 13th, there were not sufficient funds.
Okay.
Mr. Salmon, could you explain why we are where we are right now?
Good afternoon, members of the board. This particular employee is currently budgeted for in the building department. For several years previous, she was full-time released to the CSEA. Upon the change of administration in the CSEA, the request made for Mrs. Acevedo not to return to the building department, but to be transferred to the Parks Department instead. Her salary is currently budgeted for in the building department. In the Parks Department, I think it was anticipated that with the less savings throughout the course of the year, that money would become available in the Parks Department for this transfer.
So basically, it's a wash because you're taking the money that would have been spent in the building department and you're and you're spending it instead in the Parks Department because someone asked for a transfer to that department.
That's correct. The funds should follow from the building department over to the Parks Department.
Have the funds been transferred?
I believe this resolution would bring that about.
Is that accurate, Is there any transfer of funds in this resolution?
Those are two separate and distinct funds. You have the Parks Department and the Building Department.
They're two separate funds. You can't just move money back and forth, right?
You can do a fund transfer, can't you, if you have board action?
Well, no. What happens is you can't transfer between funds. At the end of the year, what you can do is you can appropriate fund balance to cover this
Correct.
shortfall, if you will. Yeah.
Correct. So basically, it's just an accounting issue versus a real issue of not budgeting to hire the 8 people until the fourth quarter. Hiring them now would cost in excess of $250,000 to the taxpayers. We're going to hire them anyway. In September 24th, we understand that we have to do it. It's the right thing to do. It's the just thing to do. I don't know what we're arguing over, Supervisor.
I think people have to live within their budgets. I think that's good government. I think that's fiscal responsibility.
Supervisor, it's a request for a transfer. We accommodate people all the time that have worked in the town of Hempstead that may want to move from one to the other, and we make accommodations at the end of the year. We have people who leave building, go to parks, so there's savings in the building department. There's a little more money spent on parks. It's a wash. It's not any additional expense to the taxpayers. This is what you want to do. So I really don't understand why we're making such a big deal about Ms. Acevedo, who has become very famous today.
And of course, I am not making any negative comment about Ms. Acevedo, who I understand is a fine employee. But I think fiscal responsibility means you have to live within your budget, and we should adhere to the budget that we have and not spend money that we don't have. Thank you, Mr. Salmon. Mr. Conroy, I actually have a couple other questions for you. On resolution number 18, which is the resolution to increase the amount, to amend a contract to increase the amount that we're going to spend on this study for transit-oriented development. And again, I think this is great. I think transit-oriented development is great. I think Cameron Engineering is a fine firm that's doing a good job for us. But I just have some financial questions relating to this matter. This is an increase of about $175,000 to their original contract. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe it's not to exceed $275,250 as suggested here.
Right. And so if you look at the resolution, it refers that the increase would be paid out of a particular line from the budget. I have to pull the resolution. Here it is. It's under Hempstead Part-Town Fees and Services Fund Account number 030-012-9000-4151. You see that in the resolution?
I do. That's correct.
Yes. Yes.
Just for clarification, this item number 18, this was approved in November by this board. There was a typographical error regarding how much of the fee cap. This was a correcting resolution. Just wanted to clarify.
Right, but we're paying it in 2019, is that correct?
The checks would be cut in 2019, but the authorization came from last November.
And Mr. Conroy, are you aware that the 2019 budget only has a $25,000 allocated for this budget line?
That would be subject to check. I'd have to go back and check that.
Well, actually, I have a copy of the budget here if you'd like to check it. Would you like to check it?
Correct, Supervisor, $25,000.
So if there's not enough money in the line to pay for this increase, we would have to transfer money, is that correct?
Or appropriate fund balance at year end.
Why isn't there a companion resolution transferring money to this to make sure that we have enough money to pay for this?
I can't answer that, Supervisor. I get these resolutions on Friday preceding the board meeting.
So if there's only $25,000, how will we pay for this? Where will the money come from?
Other line items within that particular department, there may be positive variances that we could transfer in, or as I mentioned earlier, appropriation of fund balance.
So,
Supervisor, if I may be heard. So basically, what we have here today is a correcting resolution on a resolution that you voted for in November, that was passed unanimously in November, and we're bringing up the fact that there may not be enough funds in this particular line, knowing full well that at the end of the year, we sit down and we have a lot of different areas where we don't spend in one area, we spend in the other, we make value judgments, we make choices based on what's best for the town residents and what's best for the taxpayers, and we do this every year. So I don't understand what the point is. You voted for this. I voted for it. It's something that's good. It's something that you support. It's something that I support. It's something that's desperately needed in the town of Hempstead, especially in my district. So I really don't understand what the issue is today.
Councilman Blakeman, just to respond, I said I don't have any issue. I'm very much in support of transit-oriented development. What I'm not in favor of is sloppy accounting. You can't just move money from line to line to line. We flagged this issue when we saw this resolution. We said there's no money in this line. You could have corrected it. Why is it on the agenda?
Supervisor, again, as I gave to the Comptroller's Office last October, and as I gave to them 2 weeks ago, the Cameron proposal that was approved in November referenced the additional approximately $100,000 that they were requesting as part of this project. The funds were available in the 2018 budget. You're talking about the 2019 budget. There's a fund balance left over. That money was already earmarked. This is just a correcting reso.
But the money from 2018 is for 2018 bills. You can't, correct me if I'm wrong, Controller, you can't get bills from 2019 and just say, okay, we're taking it from 2018.
But the bills the Comptroller's Office are receiving in 2019 was the work that was authorized in 2018, and the funds were earmarked.
If I can walk through.
Supervisor, hold on. Supervisor, it happens all the time. We get bills in 2018 that we don't pay until 2019. We get bills in 2017 sometimes that we don't pay until 2019 for a variety of reasons.
If I could walk through the mechanics of that, the anticipated expenditure in 18, that'd be $225,000. We encumber the money, which means we set it aside for an expenditure in 18. If it does not get spent in 18, by way of that journal entry of fund balance appropriation, or in this case, restoration, it ends up at the end of the year in fund balance. So, only having $25,000 in the 19 budget, and to your question, Supervisor, how we pay for this, we just reverse the restoration of the fund balance that we did in 18 and appropriate it in 19.
So to be clear, first of all, in 2018, I believe 100,000 earmarked on this line. I believe expenditures 60,000. Even if you take 2018, there's not enough money to cover 175 because the figures don't add up to that. And second of all, the way we're paying for this, we're going to pay out of fund balance. Correct? That's what you're saying?
That's this particular line item. I would also say that many line items we have positive variance that basically restore fund balance.
So let's just be transparent to the taxpayers and say we're going to pay for this, pay for it out of fund balance. And it could very well be that this is a great resolution and a great project and it's a really good thing we're doing, but let's have transparency about where the funds are coming from. If there's not enough money in the line, let's move the money to the line so the taxpayers know exactly where these dollars are coming from and how they're being moved.
Because I believe we do, in fact, do that. At year-end, call it an all-inclusive restoration or appropriation of fund balance. I think we went through that the end of last year. We go through it once a year.
But right now, we have a resolution that says we're paying something on a line where we don't have enough money for it.
That is not the case, Supervisor. The money was earmarked for 18. It wasn't spent in 18. There is a fund balance. The money is there. There's nothing that's non-transparent. There's nothing that's trying to deceive the public. The fact of the matter is we thought we would spend the money in 18. The work is being done in 18. Things got delayed. It's now going to be corrected, this resolution, but it's money that we approved, that you approved back in November, and there is money for it. There's no shell game, there's no subterfuge, there's nothing going on. There's no smoke. There's no smoke at all, so there's no fire. I don't know what we're arguing about here. We're arguing about the fact that we put a resolution on because somebody made a clerical error on the resolution, and we're just correcting that? It's just a corrective motion, corrective resolution.
We have a resolution that says we're going to pay fees out of a line that doesn't have enough fees. That's the point. Thank you, Mr. Conroy. Ms. Meriday?
All righty. Meta J. Meriday, Baldwin resident. In other news, number 17, I just wanted clarification. Is this tied into the situation with the plume?
Yes, this is related to doing soil testing and boring related to the Gorman plume.
And what has been the progress of that overall activity as far as residents being informed about the impending health challenges and, you know, how many residents are going to be disrupted by this process?
Commissioner, are you here?
Don't let me lose my time now. Don't let me lose my time. Okay.
Good afternoon, Supervisor and Town Board. Item 17 is to an entry access agreement to allow the Navy's contractor to do a vertical profile bore and 3 monitoring wells at this particular location on Red Maple Drive in Levittown. It's part of the ongoing investigation work that's being done. It relates to the extent that plume exists. Part of the agreement requires them to notify the adjacent property owners. They do protective measures at that site. They store materials at that site. We've done hundreds of these over the past 20 years related to the plume.
Okay, but isn't it, according to what I believe was written in a couple years ago, that the extent of the plume is now kind of beyond this area? So
this is actually on the eastern boundary of the plume. This relates to remedial work that's going to be done shortly. They're trying to get concentration numbers in this area where they're going to build a remedial plant. Yes, we know it actually extends down much further south than this, but this is more concerned about the east-west alignment of the plume.
okay. All right, thank you. Briefly, with regard to 18, because I think that one has taken up like an hour and a half at this point, I just find it interesting, and I think I agree with the councilman that this project is very important, but I also agree with the supervisor that, you know, since we study rock formations, airflow, and how high grass grows, and we can justify paying for it at the end of the year with a balance, we can't seem to give long-awaited employees the salary and, I would guess, the requisite benefits that they need to pay the high taxes to live here. We may say that, oh, this will be taken care of in September or December, but this is April 2nd. I'm sure these people have, and actually, in a matter of fact, I know about 2 or 3 of those people who are among that 8. So, again, this is a matter of their livelihood, how they eat, how they pay their bills, you know, how they get to their job, whether it's part-time or full-time. So I think that we need to kind of relook at the things that we pay for research that we can justify with a fund balance and not try to utilize those resources for, hey, maybe research about the climate and the conditions related to our veterans, but in this case, paying salaries for employees who have been waiting that long. That's all I'm going to say about that one. 21, I agree. I think that that's definitely important. 21 and 22, they tie in together. 27 is appalling. Again, we are not prepared for disasters being in a vulnerable location. So if this is, again, what I'm always told, are these small steps that people are supposed to be satisfied with until some major tragedy or natural disaster occurs, then I guess that's what I'll have to settle for at this point. 29, again, 29 and 30, I'm just trying to understand with these panels, the inside, is there going to be an inside benefit, or do those who are participating on this panel, will we see them later on coming up for contracts for the related work?
So these 2 resolutions are in response to the change in policy that we implemented as a board last year, requiring an open and competitive process for professional services with the town. So people responded to an RFQ. They were either interviewed or their proposals were reviewed. And so this is just an approved list of vendors, of lawyers, and engineering consultants who are now able to do business with the town. It's a much broader list than the firms that we had used in the past.
So when you say broad, it's inclusive of who?
We put out an RFQ, a request for qualifications, and anyone could respond, not even just people in the town. We had law firms from Rochester respond, I believe, Rochester, that's on the resolution. And so anybody who responded was evaluated, and if they met certain requirements, they are put on this approved roster.
Okay. 35, just wanted to know how much. 36, what is the distribution for this increase? Where's the money going?
Oh, it's from, it's a movement, Mr. Conroy, are you still here? I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we're just moving money from a grant account into an operating account so we can go ahead and do this work. Is that correct? Okay, so we got a grant, we're moving the money from the grant account to the capital outlay account.
So that's just going to be distributed throughout, what I gather.
It's being properly moved into account so we can then pay the expenses associated with this project.
And I did ask a question about 35. How much is this licensing fee thing?
$6,227.10.
Okay, and lastly, I did request, I had a few more seconds left, so I will be brief. I did request if the possibility, as other municipalities showcase their diversity with these contracts, I still have yet to see one amount. I don't think it's injustice to put the amount of these contracts that are on these materials because the residents don't have access to that. And if there is that unique possibility in 2019 in the town of Hempstead, we're actually doing business with a minority or woman-owned business, heaven knows, a service-disabled or veteran-owned business, that is listed by the name of the vendor.
Thank you, Ms. Meredith. Thank you.
you.
Kay Fatima, is she still here? Mary Ellen Craig.
Good afternoon, Mary Ellen Craig, 436 Locust Avenue, Uniondale. On item number 13, is 880 Jerusalem Avenue, is that the former Herman's Farm Stand?
I'm sorry, what item?
13, excuse me. 880 Jerusalem Avenue.
Commissioner, can you speak to the address?
Okay, that was a open and abandoned one-story commercial building.
Yes, I saw that description.
I think it's 1030 Arthur Street. Is that correct, Commissioner?
I'm asking about 880 Jerusalem Avenue, commercial building, if that's the former farm stand. Is that a corner property? Is there any way?
I think she's asking, do you know, there was a farm stand on Jerusalem Avenue, and I'm not sure if that's the address of the farm stand.
I'm not sure I could get that information.
We'll get you that information, Ms. Gray.
I just couldn't imagine what commercial property was in that location, so.
See if I can find it.
On the, so I'd like to move on then. On number 28, how many villages are, included in that, and how many hamlets each, please?
Number 28?
28?
No, that's not you.
So for 28, it's Baldwin, Belmore, Meadow, Elmont, Five Towns, Lakeview, Levittown, Merrick, North Baltimore, Oceanside, Point Lookout, Roosevelt, Seaford, South Hempstead, Uniondale, Wantagh, and West Hempstead.
So you do not have a breakdown of how many villages and how many hamlets?
Well, those are all the places where, for item number 28, it's relevant.
But the breakdown, since you're recommending...
It's only in unincorporated areas, to be clear.
Oh, so this relates only to the unincorporated?
Correct.
Didn't realize that. So that's the increase for those, what is it, about 13, 15 hamlets?
I believe it's 17 hamlets in 28 and 5 incorporated areas in 27.
So just to be curious, is that included in the budget? Since that's been such an issue.
To be honest, the original amount was what was included in the budget. These increases were not anticipated by the budget.
So on item number 34, I think it sounds, excuse me, interesting that you're renting out part of the premise of the old town hall, and that so the Industrial Development Agency pays rent to the town.
Yes, that is an independent agency, independent of the town. So historically, for a number of years, they've had their offices in Old Town Hall, and this is just extending their lease agreement with the town for 5 years, and we have projected this as market value.
On item number 38, what is the spray pad? Is that something for a children's park where they...
It is. That item is actually was removed from the calendar. It was removed, but that is a recreation, kind of like a sprinkler for children to play in.
I didn't realize that one was moved. I missed that. And I think that is it. But let me just check one more.
Okay, and 880 is the Mobile Mart on Jerusalem? The gas station, the Mobile Mart?
Really?
Yes.
The Mobile Mart on the corner of Nostrand Avenue?
It might be Nostrum.
And it's abandoned? Oh, that's, I mean, I saw cars in there like a few weeks ago, so I'm flabbergasted. Thank you.
Check with not a code enforcement, but check with Mr. Where's the attorney?
I'll drive past.
No, I'll get him.
Rory Gordon.
Rory Gordon, Hop Hog, New York. On number 30, does $1,000 per diem include federal court appearances, civil trials, and depositions?
I believe everybody has accepted municipal rates. Mr. Pitnick, do you know offhand, or Mr. Ross, do you know offhand to answer this question?
All those are our municipal rates.
So the question is, would it include depositions?
Depositions, federal
Yes.
court appearances, and civil trials.
$1,000 a day is trial work, the $250 an hour is outside work.
It just says Supreme Court. Does it include federal court?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Does $1,000 per day include all expenses, including travel time?
It's basically, it's a 9 to 5 day.
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear you.
It's a 9 to 5 day.
So travel time is included.
It continues, it's yes.
Okay, thank you. This is just to continue with the previous policy that the town has been paying attorneys all along. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And who reviews the invoices from the attorneys that are outside counsel?
Town Attorney's Office and then the Comptroller.
And not yourself, Mr. Ra?
The Town Attorney's Office and then the Comptroller.
Well, previously on September 5th, 2017, you told me you reviewed the...
Time to time I do. I don't do
Okay.
all of them.
Okay, just wanted to know. Thank you. On number 32, I would like to sit in on the next state certification class with the building department. As all the issues that are going on in the building department, I want to make sure that all the people that are supposed to be attending are attending the educational class, and I'd like to further my education. Can I?
Only open to employees. Did you want a job with the town, Rory?
Do it for free. I would like to further my education.
We pay that per person.
Sorry?
We
I
pay
understand
for
that,
it per
but there's 55 employees in this room. The room sits all over 200. You can attend a professor's class if you're not a student. Why, as a resident, can I not attend this when the town is paying $4,675 for the seminar? I just want to watch. I want to educate myself.
We're paying for our personnel to attend this training.
The answer,
Okay, how do you identify who attends and who doesn't?
Commissioner?
I assume there's a sign-in.
Every code enforcement officer of the town of Hempstead, after their initial training, must do 24 hours of recurring training every year. As a member of Bianco, the town board is looking to approve that now to help pay for those dues that offset the cost of those classes. This class is also done by everyone, every building official in Nassau County, all the villages, the fire marshal's office, etc. They are all in this room as well.
Thank you, Commissioner.
On number 45, on this score, why is the building department still charging $25 for searches when I handed up an advisory decision from the state over 2 months ago?
We are looking into this issue. I believe there's a code provision on point. Is that right, Mr. Picnic? So we're looking into the issue, but we're waiving it in this emergency incident for these Sandy impacted homeowners.
No, I'm talking about day-to-day operations. When I come in and I want to search a house, why do I have to pay $25?
Right, and we received your opinion, the opinion you gave us from the Committee on Open Government, and we're looking into the issue.
Okay. On the score also, if the town deems that there's substantial damage and there's no claim made to FEMA, why do people have to raise their homes?
That's not on the administrative calendar. I'd be happy to explain it to you.
Okay. It's really part of the reason that you're doing this. Why are people stuck in this yellow and red position?
Because the town did an initial property damage assessment of their homes after Superstorm Sandy in 2012, and they coded houses with different color codes based on their initial assessment of what the damage was. And they have files exist in the building department, and now I've just notified people that these files exist, and now people are calling up and asking for them, so we're waiving the fees for these people.
That's really not the purpose of my question. How did we get there? How did we get to this position? Why wasn't this information readily available in the last 6.5 years?
I can't answer that question.
Well, who can?
Okay.
Somebody can.
I can't answer the question. You'd have to ask people from the prior administration. How
about the building commissioner?
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gordon.
You put it out there, Laura. I want to know the answers.
Mr. Rockcamp, will you speak to Ms. Gordon?
In the back room, John, we have time.
I don't want to speak. I think this is a really important matter. It's been in the press. Can you imagine if it was your home or your home or your home and you get a letter in the mail? I'm speaking on behalf of the people that are uneducated. They're sweating bullets. They're coming down here like lunatics. I think it needs to be addressed. And it's part of the reason why I put this forward. What happens to these people if they have to raise their homes and Sandy money is gone?
We didn't send that letter out. I didn't have anything to do with that.
I think Laura did the right thing. It's been hidden for 6.5 years.
Your time is up.
Ms. Sweeney, you should be really upset because most of those people are in your district.
Okay.
Yes, and I've had a lot of follow-up meetings, and there's a lot of productive conversations going on. So actually, Commissioner, would you like to say a few words on this? I'm not disparaging people in public when you don't have all the facts. So, Commissioner, would you like to say a few words about this so we can correct some misunderstandings?
Thank you.
Okay, basically what happened was, after the storm in 2012, the building department's requirements were to do a preliminary damage assessment of the properties so that the town residents were capable of getting federal money. That's the only reason that it was done. As we went from home to home, we said, okay, it looks like there's a little bit of damage, a little bit of water was in this house, we'll mark this house as yellow. If there was anything that was severely damaged, we took care of it at that time, and they were marked as red. If there was no damage, we marked you as green. The information on those forms were in 2012. So that is historical data that was produced in 2012. So that's those colors continue to remain.
Correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't FEMA require the building department to go back and do reassessment not 6.5 years later?
Are you going to keep interrupting me?
I'm asking you a question so you could fill in the blanks.
So basically, what we did is we did all these evaluations. As the town board knows, the town board has waived over $6.5 million of permit fees over the last 6 years. So all those people have come in and submitted their permits and stuff like that, and we've been working with those people along the way. Since day one, this town board has notified residents through mailings, through the media, through the building department when we went to everyone's home, telling them they need to file for building permits. It is in their best interest to file because we said if in 10 years from now you don't take out a Sandy repair permit and you go to file for you go to sell your house, how does someone that's going to purchase your home know if it was fixed correctly? So this is not a money grab by the town. That's why the town decided to waive $6.5 million of fees to encourage people to come forward. As far as the preliminary damage assessments were done in 2012, you as a homeowner know if you had 1 inch of water in your house or you had 5 feet of water in your house. That is not a shock to you. Okay, you owned that house at that time. You knew that information. You were told to come in. We were helping people. We had over 30 community meetings. We had a mobile town hall that we sent to every community, and we advertised that we were there to issue these permits to help the residents get back on their feet so that they could come to us. As a matter of fact, 2 or 3 years after the storm, I got a call from Florida, which was FEMA, that basically said that that has never been done in the history of a federal disaster in this country, and that person wanted to actually come up and interview me because it was such a great idea. We did everything humanly possible to let the people know. The preliminary damage assessments were just that. Okay? What the status of the house, we were there in 2012. If people would have come, as we said from day one, and filed paperwork with us and came to us, we were issuing them permits on the spot for things just to redo their homes. Okay? If now, 6.5 years later, people did not come forward and submit to us, how do we go out and go after them? FEMA has a law where we could actually go out and issue appearance tickets to those homeowners, and it's a $250 a day fine that they don't file. So that was something that we decided wouldn't probably be a good idea because the people were hurt enough through this storm. We've extended our hours. We've gone to the communities. We're still doing community meetings. We're doing everything we possibly can to have the residents to come in and file their building applications. If people decide not to do that, that is out of my control. The problem is that when people come in, they have to go to Nassau County and get what the assessed value of the house was and how much work they did. If they come into us today and bring us that information, we can issue them a permit and they can move forward. The preliminary damage assessments really don't give you any information except for what we saw from the front of the house. Most of the homes we couldn't get into because, again, they were flooded, there was damage, there was, then we had a nor'easter after that where it was out. People didn't have power for weeks, so people weren't in the homes when we went there. However, we knocked on the doors, we left informational packets with our contact information telling everyone exactly what they should do to help this process along.
Well, Commissioner, to you and your deputies and all your staff in the building department, thank you for the work that you do. I know it's never perfect, but it was an unprecedented time, and I think you guys stepped up, so thank you.
You never did answer the question. FEMA does require you to go back, not 6.5 years later. They require you to go back. Why didn't the town code enforcement officers go back and make the determination what it really was, not what they saw 6.5 years ago?
We did go back, and that is the purpose of our...
Okay, this item is not on the agenda, so we need to move on.
And just to answer the question for the town board, though, we did go back, and those are the houses that we currently have boarded up and are secured. That is what our responsibility is. If there's nobody in them, and now they're bank-owned, we have them secured, and that was what we did. There's no houses now in the position that's going to collapse or on anybody and hurt anybody else. Thank you.
Very good job. I know that for myself because I did go around to some of those areas that you attended. Did good. That's the first time we've had anything like that here on this Long Island.
Okay, I do not have any other slips on the administrative calendar. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
You gotta stop this.
I just have a quick question regarding item 46. The 4 people on the chart on the list that are waiting for full-time employment, are they diverse candidates?
I'm sorry?
Are they diverse candidates? Are they diverse employees? You know,
My
minority employees?
My understanding is that they are in order from oldest to youngest. Is that correct, Mr. Salmon? Oldest on the list, not yeah, oldest on the list, right.
Oh, okay, I'm just asking, are they minority employees?
Excuse me?
Are they diverse candidates?
One moment, can he just answer?
Can you speak into the microphone, please, Mr. Salmon?
The employees that qualify for the eligible list are placed in order based upon their hiring date.
So
Okay, I don't
that's
think
the way it was done.
Okay, but
It was,
that's my question. I just asked, were they diverse candidates? Or were they diverse?
no problem.
Huh?
So they get on the list pursuant to, Mr. Ra, can you jump in if I'm incorrect? They get on the list pursuant to a court order that requires us to put certain people on the list, and it has more to do with their hours than their diversity. Is that correct?
It's based on longevity.
So if they happen to be diverse, it's because they're here, they're already
Okay, I just
working.
want to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk.
Supervisor Gillen.
So on the administrative calendar, I vote yes with the following exceptions. On item 18, I absolutely agree with the study being performed to help spur economic activity in the Lawrence and Wood area, but I cannot vote for an item that has no funding in place. Despite asking for a proper line to be used or a transfer of funds to take place to this resolution as written, and right now it is not funded. I still want to see this project be properly funded, but until we have a companion resolution, I vote no. On the personnel calendar, I vote yes to everything, with the exception of Ms. Acevedo. Again, no comment on this employee. I think she's a great employee, but there's no funds available for the transfer, so I vote no on that. With respect to Richard Cordero and Michael Woods, no justification was given to me as to why these promotions are needed. Sanitation Department. Jason Latanzio, no justification is given to me or provided to me for this promotion. So again, I don't have any disparaging comments about these employees. They may be great employees, but I have no reason why, I have no information on why they were promoted. With respect to Lee West, who is a new hire, I vote no, because until such time as the town has realized its less savings number of $8.1 million from retirement savings, I cannot support any new hires other than those off the Tosner list. So I vote no on those 5 requests, and I also vote no on item 54. And with respect to items 29 and 30, I vote yes on these, and these 2 resolutions are the result of procurement policy changes that I put forward last year in order to encourage competition and create an atmosphere where companies that were shut out for years could have an opportunity to business with the town of Hempstead. I applaud my board members who voted in favor of this resolution, and I'm very happy we have this new list in the town of Hempstead.
Councilman Ambrosino?
Well, Mr. Ra, on item number 20, resolution to adjourn, I support that motion, the motion to adjourn. On item 25 that's been removed, I support the amended item number 27 that doubled the amount of money being paid to the Civil Defense Auxiliary Police. There was also item number 28. I vote yes on item number 46 as amended. But, Mr. Ra, so shouldn't Mr. Blakeman's motion to adjourn be heard first? Because if that's not adjourned, what do we do? Right? I mean, wouldn't that make sense?
So what's the first vote is on the adjournment?
What is the proper way to do it, Mr. Ra? To adjourn item number 20?
Without date.
Without date? Okay. So I'm going to have to say my whole vote all over again for the rest of the administrative calendar?
No,
Just, okay.
part of the record.
He wants to vote, Councilman Ambrosino wants to vote on the amendment first, and then we'll go to the rest of it. So why don't we just go on the adjournment? Let's vote on the adjournment. Just vote on the adjournment.
Okay, so right now, the clerk is going to call the roll on adjourning item number 20, which is the resolution to pay the attorney's fee to Abrams Fenster Firm.
Supervisor Gillen?
I vote no.
Councilman Ambrosino?
Yes.
Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pazito? No. Councilman Dunn? No. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby? Councilwoman King Sweeney?
You can go back to where, so
now the item is before the town board. Item number 20
So now
is
the item
before,
as the administrative calendar on a whole.
so now we're voting,
So now, Councilman Ambrosino, you can continue with your vote on the administrative calendar as a whole.
Okay, so I vote on item number 20, 40, moved and amended, I vote yes, including 54.
Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pazito?
Okay, now that 20 is on the calendar, I vote no on 20, no on 44. And regarding 54, I would just like to point out, although I was accused of political grandstanding while the supervisor was in fact political grandstanding, I want to point out that currently right now on our website, if you go to the parks registration to register for classes, it still has TOH.li on the site. The clerk's office, who does not have her own IT, still has TOH.li on the bottom of the foil. So perhaps moving forward, like I said, this is just to move people in the right direction. Either we can delete this stuff off the bottom of the pages, or maybe the executive on the 4th floor that handles IT, instead of digging through town board and workforce emails, he could focus on taking off TOH.li off the sites.
I also just want to clarify, because I voted before we did the whole thing about the adjournment. No, I have to clarify my vote.
Voting first. Wait till we finish, and then you can vote. We're in the middle of a vote.
We're doing the voting now.
Mr. Ra, do I need to wait to the end to clarify my vote that I already cast?
Not now, right after everybody speaks.
Plus, I was not called. You all wanted me to vote first. right? You made a motion to enforce the rules, to force me to vote first. So I voted, then we did another vote, and then we did the motion, the adjournment, the administrative calendar again, and I wasn't called.
Point of order. Supervisor, you already voted, but I'm sure that if you have anything to add to your vote at the end of the vote, we'll all be willing to hear it.
Well, I would hope so.
Point of order.
But since I'm supposed to vote first, and you want me to vote first, and she called the administrative calendar a second time, and I was not called first, Mr. Ambrosino was called first, I just merely want to clarify that item number 20 might not have been clear in my prior vote. I adhere to everything I said with my prior vote, and that can become part of the record, but with respect to item number 20, I vote yes, and it will cost the taxpayers more money if we don't pay my attorney's fees, because then we'll have more litigation.
Councilman Dunn?
I vote no on item 20, no on item 44, and yes on everything else.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Abstain from 20 and 44, and I vote yes on everything else, including the amendments.
Councilwoman King Sweeney?
I vote no on items 20 and 44. I vote yes on the rest, and I want to publicly thank the CACA for a very open and productive dialogue, and also sharing most of the board's belief that we really need to stick to our budget and fiscal responsibility.
Okay, Senior Councilwoman Gooseby has requested, oh wait, we need a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn this, and I second it.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen?
Yes.
Councilman Ambrosino? Aye. Councilman Blakeman? Aye. Councilman Diaz-Pasito? Aye. Councilman Dunn? Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Yes.
Councilwoman King Sweeney?
Aye.
Okay, and Senior Councilwoman has requested a recess for lunch before we proceed to public comment.
Half an hour.
So we will take a half-an-hour recess for lunch, and we'll come back for public comment.
Second, was it second? Anybody second? Everybody second? Second, all in favor?
No, we don't have to vote on it.
We all have to